Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Max Frequency Podcast, Episode 9. The man I'm looking at, he's stretching right now. He's getting ready for a nice long podcast. It's Logan Moore.
Hi. Hello. I have a new microphone, and I'm excited to test run it on a show that is not my own.
We both have new microphones. The Max Frequency Podcast, folks, the Alex O'Neill episode, I used my new microphone, so you got to hear it there. But Logan decided to upgrade. I've upgraded. Everything should sound silky smooth.
I made like a moderate upgrade. I don't think the audio quality is gonna be drastically better, but at least it won't have feedback noises and problems with my waveforms showing up kind of smaller than I felt like they should be in Audacity. All behind the scenes, making
all good podcasting stuff.
Yes.
If folks aren't familiar, Logan and we've been friends essentially our whole lives.
Since we were in diapers?
Pretty much. There was a few years in the middle there where I had moved and we weren't connected, but we've been friends since we were children. Logan found me on Twitter, was like, "Your name sounds familiar," and reached out. And then we podcasted for 3 years. Millennial Game Speak was 3 years, roughly?
I think so, yeah. I think
about 3 years.
15 to 18, because I was actually listening to all those old episodes the other night. I actually listened to the final 20 or 30 minutes of Millennial Gaming Speak the other night. And it's a kind of, if you haven't done that, I would encourage you to. It's a very interesting look into where our lives were at that
just
point
a few
in
years
time.
ago, yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't doing video game writing stuff full time, and I was talking about that on the show a little bit. I'm like, yeah, man, I've been kind of depressed lately because I'm working at this dead-end job that I hate. So I alluded to those things, and it just kind of took me back to that point, and it put some things in perspective for me. Okay, I should be a little bit more happy and content with where I'm at now. Not that I hate what I do by any means, but I don't know. It's easy to get bogged down with your situation, I think, at certain times. And listening back to that from a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, things were actually kind of worse a few years ago, and things are doing better now in some ways. So,
yeah, it's interesting. Time is a flat circle. In the moment, it feels like that was forever ago, but really, I've only been married almost 4 years, and we essentially stopped the show right a few months after I was married. I mean, it really kind of puts it all in perspective.
It's really weird that you've been married for almost 4. I think one of my friends has almost been married for, let's say 6 now, 5 or 6. I think 5 or 6.
We just had some of our close friends just had a baby last night. It's blowing my mind. I used to drive this guy to school every day senior year. Now he's a father. It just that blows my mind. That weirds me out in an exciting way for them, but just what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird.
I think that's why we rag on you a lot about having a kid, because none of my friends, a lot of them have started getting married, but none of them have kids yet. At least none of my close friends. I have some people. I have some friends and people from high school and stuff like that have kids now, but it's not anybody that I see with or talk to with a ton of regularity. So I'm still looking for that first person in my tight-knit circle of friends to have a child.
To really just make you feel like, oh my gosh.
To really make me feel like, wow, I gotta do something in my life. But, yeah.
So I killed Millennial Gaming Speak. I talked about this a few episodes ago. That's why they call me a podcast killer. I think that's episode 6. Just because I stopped podcasting weekly with you didn't mean I stopped coming up with ideas. And we finally put into action one of my ideas here. We've been working on it for a year. I thought at the top of the show here we could talk about our new podcast that we're doing together regularly, which is Chapter Select. You and I, we pick a series of games, and we bounce back and forth between its entries to explore their design, legacy, and evolution. I've almost got the pitch memorized that I've written, but that's kind of the gist right there.
That's what I feel like I've heard you say on other shows when I've listened back.
Mm-hmm. Usually I have it in front of me, but that was the one thing I didn't bring to the show today, and that's fine. Anyway, we did Season 0, which was The Last of Us. We recorded that last year, right before and after Part 2 came out, which I'll come back to that. I'll put a pin in that. And then we started season 1 today, which is all about Paper Mario. And throughout the next month of June, we're going to be rolling out the first 3 episodes. We're actually still playing those games. But anyway, I thought we could talk about that. And so to now go back to the pin, I re-listened to the Last of Us Part 2 episode. And we talked about that game 4 days after it came out.
Yeah.
And that's just like, whoa.
It's almost been a full year now.
Time is a flat circle again. And that discussion is so interesting. Coming into that, and it was so hot off of the game for both of us. And now things, for the most part, have cooled off with that game. And I think...
A little bit.
Well...
I guess it depends on what circle of the internet you bring that game up within.
Right. It's just... I'm having a lot of fun with it. I thought maybe we could talk about the show. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of promote it and talk about it. I mean, we haven't done a project since Millennial Gaming Speak and Model Citizens.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what we are doing with the show in a general sense. Like, I like the format a lot. I'm starting to have better ideas on things we can do in the future, how to improve on the format of each episode and the format of the seasons and things like that. Like, I'm excited in general about the future of the show. I personally, I mean, I'll be totally honest. I feel bogged down with where we're at right now. I feel like we have to, like, you and I have already been back and forth passing ideas on what we want to do for season 2. And I think that stuff is 10 times more exciting to us because we just have this daunting, like, 60 hours of like bad to mediocre Paper Mario games ahead of us that we're like, oh, we know these games aren't going to be good. Like, I don't know.
We have a bit of a slog ahead of us, and I think I've been sending you ideas for season 2 the past couple of days because I'm just so jazzed to get to that series.
I think we're gonna bang season 2 out in like like 2 months at this rate.
Well, there's one.
There's
one game in there that I think it definitely will take longer than the rest, but I'm so excited just for a change of pace.
Yeah.
And I still think Paper Mario is a great first season because we haven't played so many of those games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lends itself to that discussion pretty well. And it'll be fun to play a series that we're intimately familiar with. I think we've played every game, or at least
I haven't,
but maybe 1 or 2.
I haven't played. I know we haven't disclosed what we're doing yet, and so I won't say. I have not played the second iteration on handhelds, and I have not played the final version that came
Gotcha. Yeah, I know where
you're
you're at.
Yeah, I don't think I've played those 2.
I did. All the others. I guess just so you know, a little behind the scenes here. I did tease slightly, ever so slightly, on the Chasing the Stick feed because our numbers are off the charts there. So I was like, here you go, Chasing the Stick people. I'll throw you a little tease. All I said is we are returning to the world of PlayStation.
Okay.
So so anyone over there who hears that and listens to this show, season 2 is PlayStation focused. Well,
I will say, I think that the best thing we've learned from the show so far, at least to me, is just this has been doing Paper Mario first has been a really good insight into how we should pick the seasons we do moving forward. Mm-hmm. Like, season 2 is locked and loaded, and we know what we want to do, and we both think it's a good idea, and I think we'll do totally fine with that one. But after that, we've kicked around some other ideas, and I think we'll just need to be way more cognizant of
the choices
we're making. Yeah, because so it has a good mix of, 1, are the games too long? 2, are there any like really like stand out like bad entries that are going to be a slog to get through in this? And I don't mind playing bad games and getting through them. It does. I mean, like the other day, like I'm in the midst of playing Color Splash right now, and I booted it up the other day, and I played it for like an hour, and I'm like, I'm not feeling this. I want to go play something else right now, and then I will come back to this.
Not to go into Color Splash specifically, but at least I feel like with Paper Mario and maybe Super and Sticker Star, which are the 2 remaining ones for us, maybe those will be really
I'm excited
bad.
to play Super, actually. But I will throw that out there. I am excited to play that.
I think these games are mediocre, would probably be the word I use instead of bad.
Yeah.
There's bad decisions, but there are parts that I'm enjoying in Color Splash. And so I think that discussion, we haven't, I don't think in our list of ideas for future seasons do we have anything that's truly bad.
Oh yeah. But it's a combination.
But we need length.
It's
we definitely went a little hard with
combination
RPGs.
It's a combination of mediocrity and game length, to where it's like not only are the games we're playing some in this series like not the best, but they're not the best games that drag on for 30 hours.
Yeah.
Which, in my advanced age of 26 years old, that's a long video game for me nowadays.
Yeah.
So like I used to be able to bang out games like that, you know, in a day or
a few days, yeah,
a week. And now it's like, oh, I need to set aside a fair amount of time here.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? The Wii U makes it possible to play and do other stuff. If only there were other consoles that did that.
Sort of. Yeah, I do need to get back to my roots of playing games while I like watch baseball in the background or something. I did that a lot when I was in college, when I was a big Vita boy.
I feel like you'll do that with Sticker Star.
Probably.
I plan on doing that.
I can't dedicate 100% of my attention to that game. Based on what I've heard, I probably shouldn't do that at least. So at least that one's a little shorter.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And you know, who knows? Maybe I'll cut this out. But I was thinking, you know, so we have guests for pretty much the rest of season 1 here lined up. Actually, only Sticker Star's the one we haven't reached out about yet. If anyone listening,
do we want to do that? Because I know we talked about maybe just.
I think possibly. I think we should try. Because what I was leading into is, should we try to have a guest every episode for season 2? What do you think about that?
Perhaps. I do like because I know we've talked about this before, and this is just kind of what I brought up about opening and closing each season with just ourselves. I think could be smart and allow us to kind of
have that overarching discussion.
Yeah, dictate the bookends of the seasons just ourselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, each episode is pretty wholly different from itself. Like, even kind of listening back to some of the stuff we've been doing in Paper Mario, we touch back on some of the things we've done in the previous episodes, but not a lot. And I think that's because we've been recording the Paper Mario episodes so far apart. Like, I think season 2 might feel a bit more cohesive with our conversations. At least
for you and me, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because we'll be probably banging these out much more quickly. So yeah, we'll I don't know. I think that's something maybe we just see how it naturally evolves over time and see how we feel about it. At this point in time, I am not really sure.
Yeah. We'll find out. I was thinking about that today, looking forward in season 1, and then obviously season 2 is very much on our mind. If you could see my text messages to Logan the past 2 days, it's been season 2 is definitely on the forefront of my mind.
Well, we both had that same good idea. We were in line in that situation. So with the thing you sent me earlier. So
yeah, it's very much looking forward to the future of Chapter Select. So kind of you asked me maybe a week or 2 ago. I told you, hey, you should come on the show after we launch Chapter Select so we could talk about it. And you were like, don't show me the show notes. I want to see how you would treat me as one of your guests with all these interviews, because we have work. You know, we do this together so often. You're like, I want to see what it's like to be one of your subjects.
Yeah,
you're not really one of my subjects. This is, I think, far more casual than Behind the Pixel. But I've honored your request. I've got a couple of topics here before we dive into our E3 predictions, which is a time-honored tradition not only for gaming podcasts, but you and me.
Did we do one? Well, we didn't do one last year for sure because the world.
Last year was the summer Games Fest.
The summer of never-ending
17 months
games.
Of gaming.
Yeah, thank God that looks to be over.
Yes, I'm excited for everything to hopefully be hearing.
Fingers
soon.
crossed that PlayStation. I mean, we'll get into all that soon, but I really hope PlayStation says something soon, other than what they said today.
I was hoping today would be the day with everything they talked about.
Yeah.
But first thing I want to talk to you about, you kind of actually hinted on earlier. You're at what I would call a big publication now. I've known you since you reached out to me and you were writing at, what was that site you were writing? You just sent a Doom article the other day from it or something.
So
what was that site?
That was GameSkinny. So GameSkinny is a website. I don't know if they still allow it. GameSkinny is a site where you could go and sign up and make an account and immediately just start writing whatever you want on the site. It's like an open source website to where you can just, it's basically like an open source WordPress.
News blog WordPress thing?
Yeah, it's like, so you can just kind of sign up for an account and just start making articles and throwing them up there. And I don't know how exactly that works. Like there's no oversight about it, but I know there is at that site now. I know there is like a larger editorial process. So I don't know if they've like changed how that all works or whatever, but that's
so
how
I've
that
known
site
you
was
since you were, I've known you since you were doing that specifically in the work. And now you're over at comicbook.com, which is owned by CBS.
Yes.
Or NBC, CBS. So it's owned by, you are at I would say, big publication now. I want to, how's that feel? What's that like? I mean, you've essentially done it, air quotes, done it. You've done the thing that you've been trying to do.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It still feels weird. Like I had done it as well, sort of with Dual Shockers. And I feel like I had that sort of like internal validation when I made the jump and quit the aforementioned crummy job I used to have. And I went to start working at Dual Shockers full time. But even when I was at Dual Shockers, I was not making anything. Like it was paycheck to paycheck there for the most part. And I got by and I did fine. And I just, had to not pay my tax. I paid my taxes eventually, but I had to not pay them on the schedule that the government would have preferred me to pay them. We'll just say that because I needed the money up front. I was paid as a contractor. So honestly, the biggest thing has just been to be blunt, like the increase in pay has been like my entire quality of
job
living.
Security.
Yes. Job security and just increased pay has been drastically beneficial to my way of life this year. Like you've seen how much junk I have bought this year with that. I mean,
shoes.
There's a shoe behind my head that is an expensive sneaker. Like I've been kind of throwing money around a little bit more than I should right now. And I'm very aware that I shouldn't be doing that, but I think it's the byproduct of me having to live so tightly for like the last 2.5 years that it's just kind of now coming out of me. And I know I need to get that under wraps. As for the like whole, you work at actually do the video game thing now. I don't know. Part of me, like I had no other plans to do anything else. So if it wasn't this, I don't really know what I would be doing. I guess working like at that dead end job I used to have honestly would maybe be the thing. But even that, after I quit that, there was no going back there. So I don't really know what I would have done otherwise. Because before I got this job, Dual Shockers got to a point when I was working there that it was so tough on me financially to keep working there that I did start applying to a bunch of places around town, around where I live, like similar, writing jobs or like marketing jobs, like things I felt like I could pivot to pretty easily or like was like a couple steps away from what I was already doing. And I just never heard back from any of the places for the most part. So for me to finally end up at comicbook.com and CBS and stuff like that, like I really had nothing. Like, I'm glad that I ended up there because I feel like it validates me a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
Like I had like a sort of existential crisis where I kept trying to apply to other industries. And I'm like, no one knows what Dual Shockers is. No one knows what I'm doing. Like I have to, every time I would get to the interview round, people are like, what is this? Like, well, what are you doing exactly? And I'm like, it's just a website. I'm a reporter. I'm an editor. Like, think of it like that. And they're like, okay.
Think New York Times, but video games.
Yeah. So I feel, yeah, sure. So if anything, like I just feel more validation being where I'm at now, if that makes sense. Because I kind of got the whole, OMG, I work in the video game industry full time now. This is so cool. Like I kind of had those feelings run their course a couple of years ago when I jumped to doing Dual Shockers. Now it is more like, okay, now you're doing this and you feel like an actual professional and you feel more, I feel more self-confidence about what I do in some sense.
That's kind of a part of what I was thinking about. I also you roped me into Dual Shockers for almost a year, and I enjoyed my time there. And I've mentioned it on this show in the past. At PAX East, we had a great with Mike, and I talked about it with Alex on those episodes. And I had a great time. But DualShockers was very bootstraps. The site was pulled up by its bootstraps. It was started. My understanding is it was started by three friends, or three guys wanting to go to E3, and it was a site, and then it turned into more of a thing, a little bit more than a hobby, and it was very bootstraps. And part of that in the video game industry is you got to earn companies' attention and respect, and that's really hard. And one thing at DualShockers in particular, you wouldn't maybe guess it by the name, but like PlayStation did not play ball with DualShockers. At least not PlayStation used.
They did initially,
but then
something changed.
Something
sure.
I'm not even sure.
No one is.
No one knows.
To this day.
But so like that. But over at Comic Book, I assume relationships like that are better. And what does that feel like? Just to maybe have more of more industry, like internal industry respect, and just acknowledgement that you even exist and are willing to work with. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think about how much I can talk about this, and I'm sure it's not a big deal. Comic Book is different, because it is a larger.
It's owned by CBS.
Yeah, it's a larger website by all accounts compared to DualShockers. I think the thing we run into though with our gaming team is that, we have great relationships with a lot of PR firms and publishers and stuff like that. So that's not to say that we don't. But I think we are still trying to overcome the hurdle. Every now and then we come across things where we feel like we do have to remind people that we are a gaming site because the name does not really reflect that. Yeah. And so like we have to kind of, I feel like, prod people every now and then to where we are like, hey, yes, we are a gaming website. And yes, we have a very large audience. And yes, you should probably want to work with us based on our reach that we have. So because DualShockers was synonymous with, gaming and gaming only. And Comic Book is synonymous with a lot of other things. So yes, while people are willing to play ball with us more than at DualShockers in some instances, I guess. This is also hard for me to speak to because I don't do a lot of like the PR outreach. Like at DualShockers, I was doing like all of it. Comic Book, I don't do much, if any, to be honest. So, but yeah, based on what I've just been told, like sometimes, like certain emails or opportunities won't come our way, and then when we end up following up with people, it's just because they're like, oh yeah, you guys are a really big gaming website. And so I think the name is just, that's the only thing that would potentially hinder us there.
Right.
So yeah.
It just seems cool. I remember I don't remember which E3 this was. Maybe you'll probably remember, you have a better memory than me. But one year, I don't know, this may have been the last day or the day before, you FaceTimed me and did like a tour through. That was the year.
It was 2017, I think. It was the first year.
Whenever Raymond and Rabbids was there, because they had the giant Donkey Kong rabbit.
Yeah, it would have been 2017, yeah.
And I remember thinking, you've made it. I mean, you went to PSX twice. You've been to E3. Was PSX one time?
Yeah, okay. I think I went to the last one. I don't think they did them any. Oh no, wait, they did the one after where it was just people sitting on the couches and that no one liked.
Oh.
And then they never did it again. So
yeah, you were there though for the the reveal of The Last of Us Part 2.
Yep.
You've been to the Game Awards. You are the Schick Hydro. You were the guy next to the Schick Hydrobot. I mean, You were gifted by Wario64. I mean, can you really go any higher than that? So I just remember that E3 in particular thinking, you've made it, you've done the thing. But from a work perspective, I feel like now at Comic Book, I know, and you were essentially, you were second in command over at DualShockers. Is that a fair
pretty much
way to terminize that? You were not the editor-in-chief, but you were essentially
the thing
I
always
editor.
said to people to kind of explain what I did, I was like, I kind of like ran day-to-day ops. Like I would kind of help wrangle our team around on a day-by-day basis for the most part, because I was the person around all the time. So
yeah, you've done really well, and kind of what you're saying at the top there, it feels like it was so long ago, but really it was only
wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
5-6 years ago.
So this month is actually 5 years for me.
See,
doing all this. So
when you think about it, that's really not a lot of time, and you've come really far.
I mean, so, my 20s have absolutely been defined by basically my grind to get where I am now.
Yeah.
And I think the latter portion of my 20s, my final years here, need to be defined by me figuring out what on earth I want to do next, because it's been such a, like, the dream has gone from being, oh, I want to work at this site and do this. The dream has slowly diminished over time to just from, I want to be here and I want to do this, and or okay, if that doesn't work out, then how about here and I'll do this, and okay, if that doesn't work out, it has just basically become, in its most essential boiled down point, my dream has just become, please just let me make a good living doing the video game writing stuff. And if I can just make a decent living doing it, then I'm fine. I don't care where it's at. I don't care how many people read me or listen to me or whatever. Like, if I can just, live comfortably, like, that is the thing I have realized, like, it matters. Like, starry-eyed Logan 5 years ago would have, at the drop of a hat, like, run out to San Francisco to go work for, your IGNs or your GameSpots or something like that. And heck, I don't know, maybe if I still would if they came to my front door and wanted me for some reason. But also, living in San Francisco sounds miserable, and that sounds... Yep. Like, the things I wanted a few years ago are things I actively do not think I want anymore.
I was the same way. I had the same sort of moment.
But I felt like I had to. I feel like you kind of got that way after you got married, if I'm correct. And
Abby changed my life.
For me, it had to be more about me actually getting the job and turning it into a full-time
getting in the industry, and then realizing,
oh wait, I don't actually want this. Maybe I want this instead. And the pandemic's really, like, opened a lot of eyes, I think, too, that like you don't need to be entrenched in certain places to do this.
You would think, right? I really thought that last year everyone working from home would kind of be the moment that the industry realized you don't have to be in San Francisco to cover video games. And apparently that's not the case as far as major news sites are concerned, which is super unfortunate because it's way cheaper.
I mean, I will be honest. I burn out a lot nowadays. Like it has been... The past year, obviously, has been rough for a lot of people, but like I am moving on to year 3 of working from home. I think next month it'll be 3 years of me working from home doing this games writing stuff full time. It is lonely and gets old, and like dude, I would kill to go back to an office setting where I do what I do now, just in an office setting.
I'm not knocking the office space, but just having that office be in San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
which then requires people to live in San Francisco.
Yeah,
that's kind of the part that I was really talking about. Like, games coverage does not have to be West Coast only. Your team can live, and your office can be in a different place. I mean, really, nowadays, how many events are actually, 2020 aside, like, really, how many events do you have to go to that are on site in a different place?
I would still say a lot of them are.
The PAXs?
Yeah, PAXs are, Seattle and Boston.
Boston and Texas.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody goes there.
But really, I feel like in the end, that's obviously, I've never run one of these sites or handled their finances or know what moving all of that gear and people cost to like go to one of these events. So I'm talking out of my butt here, but I feel like when you take what you would be saving by not paying rent in San Francisco, you'd end up ahead.
So my company is located out of Nashville. So I have and I don't know, this is nothing I've talked to my boss about, and I don't even know how this would work. I don't even know if we still have the office space because I don't know Well, if the pandemic did anything to us, I know we have an office of some sort. Like, I know it's not gone away completely, but I don't know if it's the same one we had before or what the deal is. But anyway, Comic Book's located out of, I don't even say the name of the site properly, but whatever. Comic Book is located out of Nashville. So that's, way more affordable. And Nashville's getting a little bit more expensive. I feel like it's kind of one of the bigger,
but not
cities in the Midwest.
California expensive.
Yeah. There's Tennessee, the Midwest, or the South. It's like on the weird border. I guess the South, you would call it.
Who knows?
It's an up-and-coming city in the Midwest South region here.
Definitely part of it.
So it would definitely be more expensive than probably where I'm living now. But also, yeah, like it's not San Francisco. I'm not going to be living in, like, I wouldn't even have a room the size of my office right here, like, to live. Like, it'd be just be, I don't know how
it'd be crazy.
I don't know how people make it work. I really don't.
I don't know. It's really cool that you're doing all this, and I'm always super proud of you. And I always tell people, I have a friend who does this. It's great. I love it.
It's still weird to like explain to like IRL friends like what exactly I do. Not to like my friends from like high school and stuff like that, but they're like people like that I go to at church that I have to like tell what I'm doing to, and they're like, hey,
my grandfather never understood. My grandfather never understood what I was doing with the guide stuff.
Yeah,
he was like, you do what? I'm like, I help people beat video games, and it pays at the time well, for a college kid.
Yeah, like my parents totally get it at this point because they've been, on this journey over the past 5 years with me, realizing that this is what I want to do. But yeah, like new people I meet, they're like, I don't know, whenever you meet new people, common question, oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I work for a website and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, writer reporter is basically just what I say to make.
It's a good default. People
simple.
Know what that is.
Yeah.
So, stepping outside of work. The one thing, this may tie back into chapter select, we'll see someday. But one of the big differences between you and me is your love of Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was Bloodborne, but like, how did this happen and why? Fundamentally, besides, they're hard, get good. Like, why do these games demand so much fervor? I mean,
the hype around why people like Dark Souls.
Kinda. I want to understand it more than, oh, this is hard and satisfying to like beat. And, Elden Ring, the hype for it is off the charts, and you are. I remember, what was it? Was it 2019 Game of the Year? Was
Sekiro? Sekiro, yeah. Yeah, that's my favorite game.
And you flipped out. You were like, yes.
Well, I flipped out over that because it was good to see. It's good to see that studio get the recognition, and I think that game mechanically is so incredible.
Help me understand.
Yeah. So like those games. I get it. And like, this is the thing that you have to tell everybody, like, because anybody who's like a Dark Souls stan or a Bloodborne stan or whatever, like they have to, anybody who first tries goes through all the same feelings as somebody in your shoes where it's like, I don't get it. Like, it's hard. Combat doesn't feel great. Kind of clunky. I don't understand. And like, if you just ingrain yourself, I feel like I don't know anybody who's not like totally like been like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to play these games and I'm going to see what happens. Like, everybody who comes out the other side is like, yes, I'm now preaching the gospel alongside everybody else.
Praise the sun.
It's a mix of a lot of different things. I think the mechanics are really just phenomenal in those games, and they don't feel good at first, but seeing how much variation there is and seeing how many different style builds you can do and how many different weapons there are and just the general combat mechanics themselves feel good, and there's timing windows when you have to know, okay, I can strike here but I can't. It's so timing, it demands your attention in a way that combat from other games don't at all. So it is very much an experience that demands your focus and your attention. And it's not a game where you're like, oh, pick up my phone here, do this. But like, I feel like there are so many games now where they don't fully pull you in with the mechanics alone. So I like it. I like it for that. The release of what's the thing that makes you happy or whatever, and the chemical brain
endorphins.
Yeah, the endorphins that hit your brain.
I'm not a scientist. Don't quote me.
I almost said tryptophan, but that's the thing in turkeys. I'm an idiot.
That puts you to sleep,
yeah,
apparently.
Yeah. The release of happy chemicals in my brain anytime you beat a boss in any of those games is so satisfying, and it's the progression as well. Slowly progressing from a person in those games. Because seriously, this is the other thing I stress to people with these games is, yeah, you're going to feel like you're getting your face caved in early on in that game, but it comes to a point where if you built properly and you learn how to properly build a character in those games, I feel like I get like halfway in or 3/4 of the way in and I can beat a lot of the bosses on the first try because my character just becomes really, really strong. And that feels even better because you were getting your face caved in the early hours, and now all of a sudden you feel like you're just destroying everything that the game throws at you. And that is very, very nice. I don't know. I'm just ranting about things I like about Dark Souls at this point.
I mean, that's kind of what I want. The closest analog I have to that, I think, is games like Hotline Miami or...
Yeah. Honestly, this is like a lot of the things I'm saying here is the same reason why I like League. Like, if I'm being totally, totally honest with you, demands your full attention, entirely centered around gameplay mechanics, and when you pop off, it feels incredible. It similar things are going on in both Dark Souls and League of Legends for me, which is why I like both, and they're completely different games. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, anything that can fully grab my attention to where I am not focused on anything else going on around me is something that I like nowadays quite a bit in a video game. That's why I like Doom a lot as well. Anything with too much talking or like cutting things, like, and I like a game with a good story, and cut scenes and all that stuff. But I will say that I think most video game narratives and writing are not that great. So anything that's super narrative heavy, that is not pulling me in, like Ghost of Tsushima is a good example of that last year. Like pretty much nothing in that game really did it for me in terms of writing and story. So
you and me have very similar opinions about Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, and I don't need to rant about that game specifically, but I mean that's just one decent example of it.
It's a recent example
where it's like a story that I think is middling or characters that I don't really care about. And it throws that stuff at you quite a bit. And it's like every time that stuff would pop up, I'm like, I don't care. I don't really care what's going on here. What's going on my phone? Let me check my Twitters. How much money have I made on my stock? So I'm down $50. But yeah, like those are the kind of things I default to doing a lot. I feel like because I have a monkey brain that can't focus on one thing for a long period of time unless it is something that is really like, no, you need 100% of your attention on this thing or else you're gonna lose or whatever. And so few games do that. League, Doom, Dark Souls, like those are the games I feel like I've been preaching the most about over the past couple of years, and that's probably why I like those. It's because they're the most like sit down, shut up, stare at the screen, and you're going to be playing a video game and doing absolutely zero else in this time.
Which one is like... There are 3 Dark Souls games. There's a Demon Souls game, there's Bloodborne, and there's Sekiro, and then Elden Ring, which we don't actually know anything about. So, like, theoretically, this is an idea for us on Chapter Select. I mean, I'll just be blunt. The Soulsborne type games is an idea, which is an interesting dynamic because I've played...
You've played none of them. I played all of them.
I've played the first boss of Bloodborne, and a buddy back when I worked at a Kmart got me to try the very beginning of Dark Souls, and I was like, I don't get this. So I have no real context for anything, and you've played... So, like, obviously that show dictates the order we would play them in.
Yeah.
But personally, what's the best one? Like, where... Is it just a soft spot for Bloodborne because that's the first one you played?
I would say, yeah, there is that for me. That was the one I started with, and that was what won me over and made me want to play all of them. But I do feel like, just like anecdotally, Bloodborne is the one I hear people trying the most, and then it really clicks with them. They're like, okay, I get it now. I want to play all of them. So I feel like that is the one that you would want to play if you are looking to actually be hooked on why you should play all of them. That's maybe the best choice. the same time, the mechanics in Bloodborne are a little bit different than all the others. So it's not one-to-one with like the proper Souls series in a lot of ways. I think Dark Souls 1 is like utterly phenomenal. Like that game is one that has stewed in my brain. If there's one that has really had like just continued to linger in my brain and me continue to just think very, very highly of as time has gone on, it is hands down the original Dark Souls. I think that game is so masterfully crafted. I think it, like playing it, it makes so much sense why it blew up the way it did. That game is interconnected in a way that few games are, and it is so cohesive in its world design, and it is just, it's utterly masterclass with how they designed that game.
So I've heard analogies specifically about Dark Souls comparing it to the original Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, it's
in the way similar. Like the world and exploring it and actually being a quote unquote adventure, which feels weirder to say about Dark Souls because it's more grim. Like when I say adventure, my head thinks to more like happy-go-lucky kind of adventure, not necessarily.
Well, it's similar. It's similar to Zelda in the sense that there are like different hubs which have like different themes centered around them. So like the water temple, the forest temple, the fire temple. Like there's like different avenues like that in Zelda. Same sort of thing in Dark Souls where there's different areas that are built around different.
And Zelda 1's hard.
And Zelda 1 is hard. The other thing too is that the other thing that's really smart about Dark Souls 1 is that it Game Maker's Toolkit has a really good video on this. You may have actually even watched this video, where the design of that game is it starts narrow in scope, like, hey, go do this one thing, and then it opens up, and then it's like, hey, now you have to go do this, but these 3 or 4 objectives, but you can do them in any order you want, and then it narrows it down to one specific thing again. It's like, okay, now go do this, and then it opens up again, and it's like, now go do these 4 things, and you can do them in any order you want. And so there is no predetermined way to go about beating that game in some senses, other than when it does kind of reel you back in and say, okay, now you have to, go do this one thing, kill this one boss, and then after you do that, then it opens back up again. And it really, it allows you to play it in your own way, which is nice and novel. I always like games that allow you to do that, rather than, having to go in the set order. I think Resident Evil Village is a good example of a game that gives you the pretense that you can kind of do whatever you want in the game, but it very much doesn't, and it funnels you down in a direct path. And I'm curious how that game would have been if it would have allowed you to go in any order, but also I don't think it would have worked for narrative reasons. So that's totally fine. But because narrative is kind of on the back burner with Dark Souls, they're like, oh, yep, go off, have fun, go kill whoever you want in whichever order.
So what you're saying is it's a Metroidvania.
Sort of. It's got like elements of it, but you don't need. It doesn't.
To me, that honestly, to not make it an entire joke, actually sounds a lot like Ori and the Will of the Wisp.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
That game is narrow in the beginning, and then it opens up to like 3 or 4 hub areas, but actually one of them is the last place you can go. Like you have to go to the dunes last, and it funnels you back down, and then it opens back up again before funneling you to the final boss.
I don't even know if Dark Souls ever, like, because there's like no items or anything in that game that you really need too often. Like it's not like, oh, I need a hook shot for this area. And I'll come back when I have the hook shot. Like there's nothing specific like that in Dark Souls really. So you can kind of go about it in any way that you want. And it really lends itself then in turn to exploration, which is really cool. Because the thing about that game that I was saying is, like you've likely seen it in the other games or whatever. I assume you're this familiar with the Souls games, but like they allow you to jump around and I unlock this, so now I can fast travel back here, and here, or whatever. You don't unlock fast travel in Dark Souls 1 until about halfway or 2/3 of the way through the game, and then you can start, bouncing around to different different fires that you've unlocked. But the game doesn't do that for the first 15, 20 hours or so. You have to clear Anne Orlando before it allows you to do that. So, and that's why people like Anne Orlando.
The name of I was going to say that name meant nothing, but understanding that they put fast travel far back.
Anne Orlando's the big castle city you've probably seen. That's where Ornstein and Smough are.
Oh, I've seen the videos where everyone beats them with like Rock Band drums or DK bongos. Yeah. Those are good.
Yeah, that's like a real. So videos. that is the one section of the game that after you do all the things early on that it wants you to do, then it funnels you into In Orlando. You have to do all of that, and you can't leave until you can't leave in Orlando because you take a one-way trip there, and then the only way you can leave afterwards is unlocking the ability to then teleport around to all the different fires, and then
the teleporting thing.
The game opens up a little bit more from there.
Huh.
That game's really smart with how it's designed, though. So, to answer your question way earlier, Bloodborne, yes, I'd probably say do Bloodborne first because I feel like that's the one that really hooks people. Dark Souls 1, I feel like, is really the best game, if I'm being totally honest. Sekiro is like its own thing, but that game is utterly fantastic. And just, there's so many good moments in that game. Like, pound for pound, I think that game has the best boss fights easily out of any From Software game, which says a lot because that's kind
Double
of like...
Monkey. What was it, the headless monkey
yes.
from Donkey?
Yes.
And headless monkey from Donkey.
Yeah, pound for pound, I think that game has the best boss fights easily. There's so many good moments in that game with the boss fights. So yeah, absolutely play. Those would be the three I would suggest. Bloodborne's probably the best one to start with. Sekiro is its own thing in a lot of ways. So...
Well, I may not have a choice when it comes down to it.
We'll
probably
see.
Start with.
We'll see.
Well, if we do it, no promises, but if we do it, we would start with the Demon's Souls. And would we start with the PS5 version?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you would.
That would be allowed.
You would probably want to do that. I mean, why would you not want to play a flashy new PS5 game? You want to go to
that's a very good point.
PS3 and play.
I mean, my PS3 is hooked up. I just would have to go buy it. That's it.
I have it as well. If anything, I should be the one who plays the original since I've played the remake now. Demon's Souls is a good starter as well, though. I will say that. So.
Yeah, and then I'll be jumping right into Sekiro, so that'll be a good. And then Dark Souls.
Maybe we could save it for Elden Ring.
See, then depend if Elden Ring's out, then it would be Elden Ring, and then Dark Souls, then Sekiro, then Dark Souls 2, then Bloodborne, and then ending on Dark Souls 3. That is if Elden Ring's out. Anyway,
good order, honestly.
You're one of the. I have quite a few friends who are hyper passionate about these games, and I thought I'd drill into that because you're one of the more recent converts that I know personally.
Yeah, I'd say if you can just leave your reservations at the door that it's hard and there is a learning curve. Just go in knowing, yes, I will get my face kicked in, and yes, this is not going to feel great at the start. And I know that is a terrible way to sell somebody on a video game because I'm one of those people who people say like, oh, well, it gets great after, like first 20 hours. I'm like, well, I don't want to play this game then. Once you get past the learning curve of your first Souls game though, then all the others are more accessible from that point. It's not like you are starting over from scratch and you are like lost in the dark. Like it is just get through your first one. And all the others will make a little bit more sense outside of maybe Sekiro as the only one. Because it's different in a lot of ways.
I'm sure I will eventually get to them someday, chapter select or not. So we'll see. But I know you like those games very, very much. My last topic before we dive into E3 predictions is courtesy of Sony today. Dude, I got so fired up today. This feels very millennial gaming speak. News story broke. I just have to talk about it with you.
Sure.
Because they put out an interview today with Herman Hulst, head of PlayStation Studios. And I'm reading through these excerpts because the podcast wasn't up yet, so I couldn't listen to it. And I'm going through, and the man's specifically calls out Bend and goes, they're working on a new IP that they're very, very passionate about. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting that he just straight up mentions Bend. I guess this means everything Jason Schreier talked about was true.
I don't think they even probably say that unless, like it was so hot in the news cycle.
This felt like a direct response to that.
Yes.
Like a public facing that Bend is very happy with what they're doing now. Like, please, everyone know. And then they go, oh, and by the way, Horizon's aiming for this holiday. We don't know yet. And God of War is pushed to 22. I'm like, well, that's kind of, like get the bad news out before E3. And then they go on and say, by the way, God of War and Gran Turismo 7, cross-generation. They're on PS4 as well. Dude, I'm of two minds, but I want to know how you feel about this. Oh my gosh.
I don't understand what they're doing lately. This is my knee jerk. Like, all of this stuff that they said today could have been said so long ago, outside of the date stuff. Like, God of War was pretty ambitious to announce for this year in the midst of a pandemic. I feel like they probably had a good idea.
When they said Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Horizon were PS4 games, why not just say God of War and Gran Turismo as well? Why not just put them all in there?
Well, they've been dodgy about it forever, too, because Jim Ryan, like, the questions surrounding God of War specifically got way more hot, like, I think, like, late last year he did an interview, and somebody asked him about that. Like, hey, you said it's for PS5, but also you're doing more PS4 games. Can you tell us if that's for PS4 as well? And he's like, oh, we'll have more to say on that later. It's like, well, if all you're going to say is, like, what Herman said today is just like, oh, yeah, by the way, they're cross-gen, why not just say that? Because, like, there's literally been 6 or 7...
They're being so cagey.
Yeah, there's been 6 or 7 months worth of questions surrounding God of War specifically, like, is this PS4? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, just say that? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's not like they're building anything, like, to anything, like, to any sort of announcement. Like, they're not going to put out a big, happy, like, PlayStation. Like, clearly they tried to bury this stuff in the midst of an odd PlayStation blog interview just to, like, answer lingering questions that people have had today. Like, this whole thing felt like...
To me, this felt like set expectations for E3.
To me, this felt more like, let's answer all the lingering questions PlayStation fans have had for the last 6 months. And in a lot of ways, I just don't understand why they just didn't say some of this stuff, like, blatantly. Like, as soon as they saw people starting to question, like, oh, was God of War PS4? Is God of War PS4? Like, I don't understand why they just didn't give clearance to be like, yo, Sony Santa Monica, just fire off a tweet, say, hey, yes, the next God of War game is also coming to PlayStation 4. We just wanted to let you know. Thanks, everybody, for your excitement. Like, that's all it takes. And instead, it's just been like, their PR has been so strange lately, and I don't know what they're doing. Not to mention, this is such a terrible look on them for everything Jim Ryan said pre-PS5 releasing, where
we believe in generations.
Yeah, that quote is going to haunt them for at least the next 18 months, I would imagine.
I honestly, I think that'll stick with them the whole PS5 cycle.
And it's not going to be anything that obviously, hurts them. They're rolling around in the PS5. They can't keep these things in stock. And I don't think that's going to stop being the case until next year.
I mean, it's on track. It's outperforming PS4 at its launch. Like, PS5 is doing extremely well.
Yes.
That can't be understated. People want these things.
But also, they're at the same time, they're definitely disincentivizing people to go buy one by telling them that the games are still going to be on PS4. And they're saying, oh, well, it's a good business decision for us to bring them to PS4 as well. Well, yes, but why?
Because there's 125 million PS4s out there. Like, I understand that fundamentally. That's hundreds of millions of dollars on the table.
Yeah.
I get that. It's kind of this two-sided thing. It's like, we have all these PS4s and we should sell to them. And think about it. Horizon Zero Dawn came out in 2017. That game, actually, I saw Colin Moriarty tweet today that game did start as PS4 only. Like, that's not surprising at all. That Horizon Forbidden West started on PS4 and then was brought to PS5. Same thing with Miles Morales.
Yes.
It's just that naturally makes sense. God of War 2018. By 2018, if the PS5 is launching in 2020, they're in pre-production for this sequel. They know where,
they know it's on.
They know. Yeah. But also, God of War, narratively, kind of felt like it was almost this is a popular comparison, but like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like using the same assets but telling another story. And God of War kind of felt primed for that. And so maybe that was the original plan all along. I don't know. But to just be so dodgy about it and not answer just is really frustrating. And this isn't about, oh, I have a PS5 and I want exclusives. To me, this is about game design and what these developers can do. By the time God of War comes out, let's say it comes out on time, fall 22. Let's just hypothetical. It's
Seems
on time.
About right. Yeah.
The PS4 is going to be 9 years old. You're telling me that a base PS4 is going to run God of War 2018 ran 1080 with an uncapped 30, I think, on base PS4.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pulling that out. You're telling me it's going to run the same thing, but then also that like automatically puts a ceiling on where the PS5 version can go if you want version parity. It's the same issue with Halo Infinite.
Yeah, and
Halo Infinite is going to work on an Xbox One and an Xbox Series X.
Yeah. And that's the thing that people...
Why not just cut it?
That's the thing people have been bringing up for a really long time is like, oh, well, it holds back these other games. And I've always been like pretty staunchly opposed to that reasoning because, I mean, one, it makes good business sense. But two, I don't think the games are held back that much. So, like, I've always been of the mind that, like, well, yeah, Halo is obviously going to come to both platforms. Like, that makes sense. It's especially since Halo is supposed to launch last year, like, with the Series X. Like, to me, I was like, well, that just makes sense, guys. Of course that's going to happen. But we are getting into weird nebulous territory now, though, where they're saying that games that are in the second year of the system's release are also cross-gen. And that's when it's getting a little bit more puzzling to me where... First year after release, I totally expect it. Like Call of Duty and Battlefield and all the big releases, Madden this year, they're all going to be cross-gen as well. And I expect that for year one. But getting into year two is where I expect those things to kind of start falling away by the wayside. Maybe less so with your Maddens and your Call of Duties. Like I bet 2022 Call of Duty is still going to be cross-gen as well. But with the first parties, I expect them to take a little bit of a different approach. And yeah, like, okay, time to leave the old console in the past, but
they get access to the dev kits first.
Yeah.
You know, they have access to tech before everyone else. It just makes sense. And then, you know, I think we didn't necessarily have this with PS3 to PS4, 360 to 1, but we're definitely have a more technological leap with 1 to Series X, Series S, and 4 to 5. The SSD in both of those just alone opens up completely new design potential, especially on the PS5. I mean, holy smokes, the thing's lightning.
I mean, just look at what they've been doing with like Ratchet and like how they designed
Ratchet and Returnal.
Yeah, Ratchet and Returnal are really good examples. Like those games are both PS5 solely, and look what they've been able to like show off that they can do with those. Like Ratchet, it's like, oh well, we can switch environments at the drop of a hat because we can, you know, there's no loading really that's needed anymore, so we can just blast people around all over the place. And so like that was like a design, they were able to create a game design pillar around what the PS5 is able to do in a lot of ways.
And they can't do that with these cross-generational games.
Yeah.
It automatically cuts them off at the knees. Think of God of War with the, you know, so God of War 2018 camera, one single shot, no loading screens. You're walking around the tree while the game is actually secretly loading in the background. It's very clever, very cool. That's not a thing that would have to be done on the PS5.
Yeah.
But if they do a similar mechanic, that has to be faked on PS5. Like it's almost like the elevator in Mass Effect where the elevator ride.
It's been funny going back to the Legendary Collection because they used to pad out the loading on the elevators, but they would like do like character interactions on the elevators as well, so there's like at least something going on. In Legendary Edition, like the loading happens so fast, especially because I'm playing on Series X. Like you'll get on the elevator and it'll start going up and the two characters will talk and a prompt will appear on screen say, oh, like if you don't want to hear this conversation, you could just press A to skip and we'll let you get off the elevator. Like that's how fast it is now.
Right? And this is not like a selfish I just want new PS5 games. I just want to see what these developers like. I want to see what next gen really can be, and I feel like supporting the older system with the same games for this long afterward is really crippling the design of potential of these games and where they can go. And it just kind of bums me out in that sense. I'm very happy that over 100 million people could go out and buy the new God of War game and play it right away. That's great as someone who loves God of War.
Yeah.
Or Gran Turismo 7. Like I'm personally happy about that. But I can't help but think, what if they were designing this solely for the PS5? What could they do and push it forward from a game design perspective?
Yeah.
And the fact that they could have told us. This had to be decided from day one. You don't go, we're going to make a PS5 game. Oh, wait, pivot. Now we have to make it for both. Like, that was up front. Like, why not just tell us? And then you don't have this negativity going into E3 or Summer Games Fest or whatever, where presumably Sony is going to have some sort of showcase. Rumors were floating around that it might be June 25th. As of this recording, they haven't announced a day and time yet. But, I mean, I get getting the negativity out in front, and good for them. And they have Ratchet coming out right before, which I think will kind of swing the pendulum back. But another thing I saw today, Ratchet is the only PS5 exclusive first-party game.
Yeah.
That is
that
currently
we've been
announced.
told about, yeah.
And it's coming out in 10 days.
Well, and this is
as of this recording.
So this brings back to the one, I guess, thing with all this that I want to mention is like, and this could be a good segue into their announcements, is I don't know what version of Sony we're going to get. Like this year's E3 or press conference or like whatever the heck they're doing this year when they're going to assumably make more announcements about what they're doing in the future. This Sony does not feel like the Sony we got at the beginning of the PS4 generation where they're just like, hey, we're going to tell you guys everything we have in the pipeline over like the next 5 years, over the next like 2 events. And we're just, here's Death Stranding, here's Spider-Man, here's Days Gone.
You're just going to be excited about it for years.
Yeah, because like they showed their hand really, really early on in the PS4 generation of what they were doing and when it was all like they were pretty, their messaging was totally straightforward with the PlayStation 4. They're being so cagey now about every little thing, and it doesn't make sense to me, and it makes me think that like when I was crafting my PlayStation predictions, that was the hardest thing. Is like, should I predict this further down the line? Like, do they want to talk about things that are 4 or 5 years down the line at this point? Like, I don't know what they want to do anymore. Yeah, I don't think anybody who pays really close attention to the video game industry would disagree that they've had a messaging problem over the past 18 months, probably, for sure. Maybe even longer. Probably back to 2019 when they started doing
Remember when they were revealing the PS5 details exclusively in Wired?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up specifically. Like, ever since I feel like Layden stepped out, Ryan stepped in, Hulse stepped in. Not that they're like bad at running the company, but ever since like a lot of key shakeups happened within Sony, they've clearly decided that they just want to operate the company from a PR perspective in a much different manner, which is fine, I guess, because I mean, let's be honest. Like, Horizon's going to be really good. God of War is going to be good. Ratchet looks really good. Like, there are all these things going on with Sony, and I don't think anybody's doubting the quality of the games that they're going to have coming up. It's more just like, why not just like be a little bit more upfront with us? Like, the questions that fans have are not really complex. We're not asking Jim Ryan to tell us how Atreus being Loki is going to fit into the narrative of the next God of War game. Like, Jim Ryan, who blew the horn? Like, there's nothing like that. Like, just very simple consumer questions that people want answers to that they like refuse to
It's almost like they're resting on their laurels of the PS4. Like, they consistently in the PS4 generation put out excellent first-party games. I mean, that's really was a huge strength of the PS4 was first-party exclusive and second-party exclusive titles.
Yeah.
And they almost feel like they're resting on it. And they're not currently telling us like, oh, you're going to get this game and that game, and here's this, and here's Naughty Dog's new IP, and blah, 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 blah. And we won't see that for 4 years or whatever. But also, both Jim Ryan earlier in May and then today in Herman Hulse interview, we've got 25 games in development at PlayStation Studios, and over half of them are new IP. Oh, we've partnered with Jade Raymond and her new studio to make a game. We've partnered with Firewalk to make a new multiplayer game that looks incredible. They're talking about stuff, but it's behind this veil of mystery.
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of giving us a little bit of whiplash.
It's just giving people, it feels like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth in certain instances as well. Like, oh, we want to craft experiences that'll only be available on PlayStation and nowhere else. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're bringing Uncharted 4 to PC. Like, which is fine. I think their PC initiative stuff is totally makes sense. And it is like a 2021 mentality to take if you're a video game company. But that's why people keep getting upset with that stuff, these hardcore fans, is because it feels like they're stringing everybody along in some senses and just saying what they think people want to hear, rather than just, being like totally upfront and like the reason why Xbox is so popular right now is just because they are just very blatantly upfront. Like their whole turnaround a couple months ago with their like, we're increasing gold. Actually, no, we're not. We made a bad decision here. Like, I don't want to praise them for that situation because that was a stupid call in the first place, and they should not have moved forward on that. But
they made the right response.
Yeah, imagine Sony ever doing anything like that in response. Like, they would never do something like that in response. I don't think. The only time I can think of them really kind of admitting they screwed up was with when the PS5 pre-orders went live, and everybody's like, Sony, you just flipped this. Like, what is going on?
Actually,
and I know that wasn't their fault, but everybody was screaming at them all the same about it.
And that's a great point, but also look at the PS3 and the Vita stores.
Yeah.
They did actually hear the outcry and pivot.
And that was a very, very rare thing. Fast. Like, that was a shock to everybody when that blog post went live. Like, wow, they actually listened. And because you don't see that side from Sony very much. And Xbox has been very face forward and is like, no, like, we hear you. Like, Xbox feels entrenched in these gaming communities, and like, Xbox feels like they get it. Sony is starting to feel like a large corporation that wants to sell you video games at the end of the day, and they don't really care about anything else. And a couple of years ago, they didn't feel like that because they would have things like PSX, and they would have these, like Jim Ryan, like, we don't see this man like talking ever, like even Herman Holst, and a lot of this has just been, because of COVID and things like that. But like Nintendo does directs, and they at least like put people on camera a lot of times. Like,
they have personality.
Yeah, instead of like disembodied robot voice lady from State of Play. Like, that is like, there's just such a separation of personality and like engagement with PlayStation right now. It feels like they're keeping their audience at an arm's length, which is it just makes them feel very monolithic.
It's confusing.
Corporate. So
it's weird. I really hope they can kind of pivot and return to the good graces of like to the community, because obviously they're super successful. Like, PlayStation's not hurting.
I love my PlayStation 5. I played it.
This isn't an Xbox One situation where everyone was like, "Oh no." This is just like they have made it's one step forward, two steps back almost. And then Returnal, great game. I assume Ratchet's going to be. I'm really excited about Ratchet.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. If I had the PTO, I'd be taking next Friday off. Like, I'm pumped for it. And I'm still excited about the future. God of War is going to be great. They just did the Horizon State of Play.
That looks awesome.
That looks like a proper, like, those look like the kind of improvements I wanted out of the sequel for Horizon. I'm stoked to play that game. I hope it does come out this holiday, so I can have this big open world PS5 game to play.
Yeah.
But I guess really we'll go to our E3 predictions here in just a sec, but I just feel like I'm a little lost in the woods with them. Like, I don't know where PlayStation's heading officially.
Yeah.
There are rumors out the wazoo. Naughty Dog's working on 3 games apparently. Like, I'm excited for those games, but am I going to see them this year? Probably
they got
not.
Stuff they've got a lot of stuff cooking. It's just, what do they want to talk about?
And the difference is, last year we knew what was in the oven. We knew what was cooking
a little
bit. If we knew the kitchen took a little longer, then we'd be fine because the meal still came out great. But right now, it's like a mystery.
There were
menu.
some surprises last year. Like, Miles Morales was a real, like, no one expected that.
Huge surprise.
Like,
Miles was huge.
No one expected that. No one expected. I mean, Demon's Souls we knew about. God of War sequel, duh. Horizon sequel, duh. Ratchet, I think people expected to come back as well, but it wasn't really confirmed. So,
well, I think the surprising thing about Ratchet was because they had just done Spider-Man, and they also opened with Spider-Man Miles Morales, and we're like, oh my gosh, Insomniac's doing 2 games, and that was before we knew Miles Morales was a smaller, like Lost Legacy style game. It was just like, holy smokes, they're cranking 2 PS5 games out. That's crazy. Oh wait, no, one of them. One's PS5, one's a PS4 and 5, and by the way, Sony bought us for $200 million, and it's like one of the best deals ever.
I don't know how they did that. So
this is not a prediction. I'm going to mention this now, just for the heck of it. Before they were bought, Insomniac was making all sorts of games all over the place. They had some Microsoft exclusives. They did VR games for Oculus and stuff. Yeah. What if Insomniac's making a VR game for PSVR 2?
They probably are.
That would be done.
They have
oh my gosh.
they have a whole segment of their company that was like dedicated to
Right.
it. So yeah,
That would be. I totally forgot that they did that. Wow. Oh wow. That'll be. That has a lot of potential.
I didn't play that
Sweet.
robot game. I forget what it was called.
Yeah, they did something.
I forget what it's called. I
forget
played
what
it though,
was.
and it was like super impressive. I played it at like a demo of it, but
Yeah.
cannot remember what it was called.
One of the greatest buys ever.
Yeah, it makes me think that
Anyway.
they like just wanted to be acquired, kind of in a general sense, and wanted PlayStation to be the one acquiring them. Because I feel like they could have gone for more.
They've had the longest relationship with them for sure.
They've been one of like the most impressive developers in the industry over like the last 5 years. So I feel like they could have been sold for more, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Big fan of Herman, I guess. Kind of a deal.
Herman. I do like that. The head of one of their best studios is now the head of all of their studios.
I like
under
that
this
too.
studio.
I like Herman. I like Herman Holst a lot, but I feel like we've just not seen. I just feel like we've not seen.
We need to see him more in this role.
Yeah.
He was around a lot for the press tours for Zero Dawn, but
What have they
Killzone
done? I mean, real quick aside, what have they done since he's been appointed? Because they've left E3 entirely. Obviously, COVID ruined everything last year, and everybody went digital last year.
You mean like event?
Yeah, what have they done? Like any in-person events to where he could even stand on stage and be like, "Hello, I'm Herman Holst. I'm head of First Party Studios." Or whatever.
No, that he wasn't a part of the GDC thing. Not that was in front of a stage. That was Mark Cerny.
That was in front of a fake audience.
Yes, that was good. That was a good time. No, they really haven't. No Tokyo Game Show. No.
What did they do
PAX
during
or anything.
E3 the year before 2019? Did they ended up doing something? Was it just State of Plays, and was that it?
It was a state of play or some sort of showcase or something. But
Did they do some proper showcase?
what was 2019? So 2019,
They bailed on E3, and I don't know if
they
did
would have
anything.
had. Was there a Last of Us demo?
They did like previews and released gameplay and stuff like that, and released some like interviews with the.
But I feel like that was September, October. That was close to the day.
Yeah, it was like later on in the year. I can't remember what they did in the summer, to be
2019.
totally honest. They might not have done anything, but I feel like that's wrong.
They would have done some ghost stuff. I don't know. He hasn't been out like a Shuhei Yoshida or a Phil Spencer,
Or Sean Layden, or
or
Jackie
Sean
T.
Layden, or
Jack Tritton.
or Reggie, or even I feel like I've seen more of Doug Bowser.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just because I follow him on Twitter, and he actually tweets. But PlayStation needs more personality in their messaging and executive presence. I'm not saying that the guy's got to go on every podcast and like be buddy with everyone. The man has a very important job and oversees teams around the entire world.
Like we said, it just feels like whiplash compared to where we were.
It just feels cold.
Yeah, well, it's just. I think if this was how Sony always operated or PlayStation always operated, then we would be fine with it. But like I said, it just feels like a total 180 compared to where they were at the start of the PS4 generation, where they did have all these like prominent figureheads within the company, and we did see them out up front talking a lot. Like the whole used game dunk on Xbox doesn't work unless we are pretty familiar with like who Adam Boyes and Shuhei Yoshida are to show up in that in that video. And like the thought of PlayStation trying to do anything like that now, like I don't even know who they put in front of the camera. Like they're not that you need like these. I don't know.
It just makes it more.
It makes it more personable. Like people want to engage with that stuff.
Phil, look at Phil Spencer. Everyone loves Phil.
Yeah.
Everyone now, whenever Phil's on camera, they're looking behind his desk, like what's he got on the shelves and stuff. Like there's character and charm and personality there, and I think that then reflects back on the company in a positive light.
Like I said, it makes it feel less corporate. It reminds you that there are actual people behind this company working on these things for you. So yeah.
So now let's predict what these companies are doing.
Do you just want to start with PlayStation? May as well.
Sure. We've been on the PlayStation beat. Let's start with them, then do Xbox, and then save my sweet baby Nintendo for last. Yeah. So real quick, just we've got 5 predictions a pop. One of my predictions was ruined today because they said God of War comes out in 2022, which was my prediction. So I fixed that, but
It's hardly a prediction; it's a foregone conclusion, sir.
Yes, very confident. So much so that you had a face tattoo on the line for it. So good job getting that done. But We've got 5 apiece. Let's just do it round robin. When you go, I go. We'll bounce back and forth, and we'll start with you, sir. PlayStation #1 prediction.
Okay. I don't think we'll have very many in common here, but I will steal the one that I feel like might be on both of ours up front.
Mine's pretty out there.
Spider-Man 2 is revealed. Black Suit Spider-Man confirmed in the debut trailer.
Okay, no Spider-Man 2 stuff at all for me. So
I think that's
all clear.
I think that game is very much talk about how impressive Insomniac is. I don't think a whole lot of the core team because Miles Morales had like a totally different director and design team.
Again, very similar to Lost Legacy. Yeah. They let different people head that project. So
Inahar's team, which I'm sure again there's surely a lot of crossover between the two on like the levels of people's names we wouldn't know about on the dev teams. But Inahar has been working on Spider-Man 2 since that game ended in 2018? Is that when that came out? So
yes, we're moving on. It did, because that was my game of the year.
So we're moving on a full 3 years since that game came out, which means it's probably about time to get some confirmation that, I mean, everybody knows it's coming. There's no talk about a game they don't need to hide. Like if there's 3 games we knew 1,000% were going to be coming for PS5: Horizon sequel, God of War sequel, Spider-Man sequel. Just get it out there. Tell us it's coming. And they don't even have to show a lot. Just, again, we know this black suit stuff is coming. That's going to be the hook of the game. Just show it. Just show Spider-Man decked out in the symbiote. Boom. Sold 12 million copies within three weeks or whatever. People would play that.
Yeah.
So I think that is, because I think them simply showing off a trailer and being like, Spider-Man 2, here's Peter Parker swinging around the city. They got to show something that's going to get people hyped. And that would be the thing to get people hyped, to seeing Spider-Man decked out.
Everyone knows Black Suit / Venom. Like that is the thing. That's the cool factor.
That would get people hyped. That would get people hyped about the game without also having, get them excited by showing a villain or showing something that they might want to keep a little closer to the chest. Because they hit Doc Ock. No one knew Doc Ock was in the game until you start up the game, and then you're like, oh shoot, Otto Octavius is in this game. So the Doc Ock video game. The symbiote is the one thing they can show off, though, that I think is going to have to be very face forward with that game, because you would assume you'll have totally new powers, totally new way to get around, and abilities and things like that. So they're going to have to show that off.
The box art could be black with the white top. That's the PS5. It can match the PS5 console itself. It'd be really slick, real nice. Outside of your prediction, when do you think this game's coming, roughly? Because, good God, they're busy.
I think so. So here's the. I think next year would have been the year, but I'm wondering if COVID ruined it. Because I think 4 years between those two makes pretty good sense. Especially when the first game they just had to nail so many things that are so hard to nail, like the web swinging and the core mechanics of that game is what I feel like would have been so hard to.
They had to build this rock solid foundation.
Yeah, and the foundation is there. So I think 4 years between first one and the second one makes a whole lot of sense. So I would have said next year, and I guess I will still say next year, but yeah, COVID's ruined release stuff, so it's so hard to predict anymore. But sure, next year we'll say is what I think it might show up.
Is it a cross-gen game?
I really hope not. Surely not. They already did it with Miles Morales. That's the Spider-Man cross-gen game. I would say there's a good 90% chance no, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, don't worry. It'll be announced as PS5, and then 7 months later, it'll be like, oh yeah, it's coming to PS4 too.
I'm very excited for that game. I feel like I don't talk too much about the original Spider-Man and how I like it was really. I want to replay it, to be honest, but I like Black Suit.
Remastered on PS5.
I like Black Suit. That would get me so hyped. Like, that is the one comic book run I have from the start to the end. So
there you go. That's your moment. Speaking of Insomniac, I'll jump down my list. Sunset Overdrive comes to PS5 in some capacity, whether that's a remake or a sequel. The Sunset Overdrive franchise comes to PS5. They own it now. There are rumors it's coming.
Gotta be easy to port. Easy way to get $60 out of people,
Yeah, like, just bring it over. That is Sunset Overdrive is one of the coolest, like most wacky, fun games of last gen. It's one of the first games I picked up for my Xbox One. It's just it's a hoot.
Yeah,
it's Tony Hawk and Insomniac's crazy wacky weapons. Like, come on, just bring it. You own it.
It's been gone for long enough that like people would probably double dip to buy or play again too if they have already before.
Almost kind of reminds me of like Nintendo with all the Wii U to Switch ports. It's like, we have this really great game, but it was stuck at the launch of a console that wasn't doing so hot. Let's bring it to our most successful, It just, you know what? I think Sony should cash in on Sunset and just bring it over. Easy peasy. All right, you're number 2 for Sony.
All right, we'll do this. We'll stick in line with very much Logan Moore style video games. BioShock 4 is revealed for the first time. No gameplay is shown, but the trailer at the very least reveals the location of where it's going to be set. So very similar to like the teaser original trailer that they did for Infinite.
Wow.
So
BioShock.
I think we got to see that soon. They announced that back in 2019. I think they confirmed they were working on that.
Yeah.
And I think they're still kind of staffing up heavily to work on it. So it might be a little bit like, I'm not expecting it to be out next year. I think 2023 could make sense as far as like a release date, but
yeah,
they gotta have something to show, I would think, unless they're not wanting to show anything until it's closer to launch. But
where's BioShock Vita?
In a shallow grave somewhere.
What a game! Alrighty, gosh, that would be crazy. BioShock, the internet would go nuts.
Well, there was also, did you see those rumors the other day? Somebody said that. This is what got my brain thinking on this. Some person said that he's heard that PlayStation is looking to score the next BioShock as an exclusive, timed, similar to what they've been doing with like Ghostwire and Deathloop.
Wow.
That BioShock was in there, and that BioShock was in their crosshairs as one that they wanted to snag for that, and that it was possible or likely to go through like that. So,
I mean, that would be really cool. Like, good for them. Again, second-party exclusives in some capacity. That's really.
I mean, it'd be good for them.
Their bread and butter.
Yeah, I kind of
it'd be good for them.
I dislike when anybody does
you think of BioShock as an Xbox series
a little bit.
I get that,
but yeah.
That
is one series I have played on kind of everything at this point. So like whatever.
Switch.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I have it on Switch.
Oh yeah,
I reviewed it on Switch for DualShockers back in the day.
Oh my gosh, okay. Missed that one. All right, so my next prediction. This is probably the most vague and boring. Not boring. It would be exciting if it's who I hope it is. But this is all the prediction is. A mascot character returns. Who that is, I don't know. I'm not saying Sly. I'm not saying
Jack.
Crash. Crash just had Crash 4. I don't think Crash, but
and also Toys for
Jack,
Bob is now working on Call of Duty, so probably not Crash.
So I could see.
Naughty
Sly,
Dog's already said they're not doing Jack, so you basically
Jack. Well, it doesn't. No, Naughty Dog doesn't have to do Jack. They gave other people Jack before. I'm just saying.
Good.
A mask, like a PlayStation mascot character, could be Twisted Metal, could be Parappa the Rappa, could be who knows.
Astrobot, do you consider that a mascot at this point?
I would consider Astro a mascot. I think Astro's next game is a PSVR 2 game, and that will be when that gets shown off, and that's not going to be this year. So, but yes, a mascot character returns. I promise the rest of my PlayStation predictions are slightly more exciting or controversial, but someone's coming back from the could be Sir Daniel again. Remember when they brought him back? Just something. Some PlayStation characters coming back to life.
Okay, I'll do a straightforward one at least then. Half-Life Alyx is announced for PSVR 2. The end.
Before they even show off the headset.
Oh, I mean, I think they'll show off. I think they'll talk about it to some degree.
Okay, that would be.
But
great.
I think they could. But I think they could be like, "Hey, we've got the headset coming. If you want to know what games we got coming, we're not going to talk about all of them right now. We'll talk more specifics down the road. But Half-Life Alyx is going to be one of them. Thanks, Valve." We see a clip from Gabe gives the thumbs up. and then that's it. So I think that's
Okay.
I think that's a good killer app for them to get, sort of.
If they could get Half-Life Alyx, oh my gosh. All right. My next one, in ranking of just simplicity, I think I'll phrase this a little bit more than what I have written down, but no new Horizon Forbidden West footage.
Okay, so a classic anti-prediction.
They just did a 15-minute state of play that screams E3. They've announced today they're aiming for holiday. I don't think they show off anything new for Horizon.
No, I think that makes sense. I agree with you.
Sweet. Didn't know if that one would be my next two are the ones I'm most excited about for PlayStation. But before that, your number 4, sir.
Okay. Another one pretty straightforward, and we were talking before about like how far down the road are they going to talk about things, and what are they going to confirm, and is there anything they're going to just talk about that's coming? I think like this will be far away, but I think they are going to just confirm that Ghost of Tsushima 2 is a thing and it is coming. And I think there'll be a teaser trailer for it, similar to like what they did with God of War last year, because they're going all in on that. They're making a movie of Ghost of Tsushima now. So like, yeah, that's like a franchise for them that they are not going to put to bed anytime soon. That's totally what Sucker Punch is doing next. They're making a sequel to that game. There's really no reason for them to hide it necessarily, other than the fact that it's going to be further out. Like that game is probably not going to be probably 2023 at the earliest, I would say, like absolute earliest. So that would be the only reason I can't see them announcing it right now. But again, if we're going off of how they acted last time around, they might just show their hand and reveal a lot of things they've got coming up way down the road of why you should own a PlayStation 5, because we've got this game coming and it's the sequel to the game that you liked on the PlayStation 4. So yeah, before I said there were sequels, we 1,000% knew. The 4 big ones, 1,000% happening. Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima. 1,000% we're getting sequels to all of those.
Yeah, I agree.
So may as well just confirm it. Do some sort of trailer, tease it, get people excited. Boom.
It's not hard to show a sword in the ground with some
just
wind.
Pull a
and
Starfield or Elder Scrolls and just basically confirm it's a thing, and that people don't even have to question whether or not it is anymore.
Yeah. So my next one, this is really a pipe dream if we really want to boil it down. Metal Gear Solid and or Snake appears in the showcase. Snake and Metal Gear Solid will be present in some capacity.
I don't know if I want that, if I'm being honest.
The only way I'd want that is if Blue Point was if Metal Gear Solid 1 was getting another remake.
Yeah.
But I'm reining in the specificity of leaving room for disappointment. Metal Gear Survive 2 or something. But Metal Gear Solid and or Solid Snake appear in PlayStation Showcase.
Okay, I'll stick. That's actually a really good one for what I've got. So I have, for my 5th one, a Konami IP of some sort appears in its PlayStation exclusive. Because there's been so much talk for like 2.5 years about how Konami is like, okay, we want our games to still be a thing, but we're not making them anymore. Like, they've kind of hinted at this for a while now, that they are partnering with other people to make their games.
They just want to sell their IP out, like rent their IP
basically
out to
like,
developers.
hey,
almost like Disney does with Marvel games.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Insomniac, you can make this, and Crystal, you can make that.
Yeah, they've really not made anything in-house within the past few years from any of their big, like Silent Hill's been on hold, Metal Gear since Survive has done nothing, Castlevania is doing nothing. Like, they've just got all these like mega popular IP sitting on a shelf, and they've said that I can't remember exactly what they've said, but there's been like hints dropped that they've partnered with other studios and they're looking to give them to other companies.
Yeah.
And Sony, obviously, I just think it's a good marriage for the two of them, because Sony is a company that has been looking to work with parties and to look with second or third party companies in this capacity to make exclusive games where they can't they can't afford to buy companies on a studio by studio basis, like Xbox can. So it makes sense for Sony
Yeah.
to go to these companies that they know want to do things in this sort of capacity, like Konami has said they are looking to do, and be like, hey, okay, you're not touching Castlevania. How about you work with us and we'll do something there? Or how about we do X, Y, and Z? I don't know. Silent Hill's the big one that's been rumored for a long time, but Castlevania is also possible.
And I think a lot of Konami IP are associated with PlayStation.
Yeah.
Silent Hill and Metal Gear specifically, like those just are almost synonymous with the PlayStation brand. Look at Astrobot, where there were Castlevania references and Metal Gear references, with all the little robots.
Yeah.
There is a strong relationship there, so I definitely could see them.
I don't know. It's
Konami
a weird thing though, because I don't know how it would work.
Like who would be?
Yeah, I don't know who
it?
would be making it. Because I think Sony could snag the exclusivity, but I don't think an in-house Sony team is going to be the one making it. But Konami itself also isn't going to make it. So it would be very much like a sort of Sanzaru situation where it's like, except that was different because Sucker Punch obviously owns the Sly IP, where it's like, hey, we want to do it.
Sony owns the IP, but
you
they
get
own
what I'm
Sucker
saying.
Punch, yeah.
So like, yeah, Sucker Punch was the Sly studio. PlayStation owns Sly. They look for that sort of thing, except the rights are a little bit more mishmash between different parties and things like that. But I think Konami would be open to it. So,
yeah, I like it. I hope that's the case. Not just for Metal Gear in my prediction, but just
Silent Hills. Everybody's freaking out about. Yeah.
My final PlayStation prediction: Final Fantasy 16 gameplay and release date announced. This could be a release window, but a time frame is associated with the new Final Fantasy 16 gameplay. So you think they're going
balls to the wall here? For the record, we already saw gameplay of 16, didn't we? Like, it wasn't like, I don't know what it was.
What? It was.
They kind of showed it.
What I remember was that Final Fantasy like styly trailer. Like I'm thinking like a chunk. Okay. Like a vertical slice.
So you're thinking they're going balls to the wall with Final Fantasy and then this rumored Origin game that is a thing that is like the Dark Souls-y Final Fantasy.
That action game?
Yeah, that action-y.
Possibly. I think there's a lot of heat for Final Fantasy.
That game 1000% exists. That Final Fantasy Origin game 1000% exists. Too many people are saying it exists that know things. So
I think 16 gets a little bit of time.
Okay.
And we already know it's a PS5 exclusive upfront, so it only really makes sense to show up at Sony's showcase. So,
not to add this as like a potential wrinkle to your predictions, but are they going to go really balls to the wall with Final Fantasy and also show off Part 2 of Remake in some capacity?
No, because of Intergrade.
I think no.
If anything, there's a tease at the end of Intergrade, whatever.
Terrible. I hate writing that name. Imagine me typing that name. Anytime I have to...
Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade?
I hate typing that. That's like on the short list of titles that I think of.
Is it worse than Final Fantasy 1.5 plus 2.5 HD Remix? With
Kingdom Hearts is...
RE capital
Kingdom
M?
Hearts is the worst by far. But... anytime I have to write about Intergrade for my
2.
job, I hate it.
Prologue plus 0.2.
Just don't give me long titles, and I'll like your video game probably.
Yeah, it's I don't think they show off 7 Part 2. I think Square would want to save that for their own thing later. That definitely will get a lot of pomp and circumstance. But 16 is going to show up, I think, and get a substantial. Now, will it hit that date? No, but. They're going to put a date to it. Alrighty, going on to Xbox and Bethesda.
They're joined at the hip now.
They're joined together. When I was entering in the showcase times and stuff into my calendar, every year I have a color coordinated calendar to put it in so I can visually see who's going at what time. And I had Microsoft and Bethesda calendars, and now I guess
they're both green.
One and the same.
They're both green now.
They're both green now. Sony are Xbox/Bethesda predictions all merged into one. I'll start it off since you started off PlayStation. Maybe this is low-hanging fruit. Maybe it's too soon. We'll find out. Halo Infinite Beta today.
Ooh.
That's the part I think is questionable. I I say they drop it. Halo clearly is was delayed, obviously, and is launching later this year. Is the current plan? They need to talk about the multiplayer.
I don't think they can afford to delay it again.
Yeah, they need to show off the multiplayer. That is essential to a Halo game, and I obviously with that becomes a beta, and I think that they just say the beta is today. It starts today in some capacity.
Okay, so normally we have pretty similar ones here, but I'll just do mine because I didn't come with the 6 to maybe swap out or whatever. Rookie mistake. But I had Halo Infinite multiplayer will be the thing they primarily highlight. Like that'll be probably the sole thing they show.
That's similar.
And I think the alpha/beta date will be revealed. I think it'll be this summer, maybe like July, August. I don't think it's today. I would love to, I would like to play Halo in 2 weeks' time. Trust me.
Right.
But especially because of how they roll these things out, they usually don't do an open beta format. That's usually closed to some regard.
I just said beta. It could be a closed beta.
They could say
only to certain.
I could see them saying signups are available now, but I think it would be very surprising for them to do a closed beta test and say it starts today when they've had no signups beforehand, if that makes sense. So
it could automatically go out to certain subscribers or people that are in that Halo club or whatever.
They have like the Halo Insider is what I think it's called. So they encourage people to sign up for that all the time because it's how they get beta testing for Master Chief Collection anytime they do that. So that would make sense if they did that.
I think that would be we both are in agreement that Infinite is going to be there. And
I think, and I wrote an article about this the other day, kind of like my own spin on it because they didn't really make it blatantly clear. But if you look at the teaser image they revealed too, they revealed the Halo stuff in that is not like Master Chief or whatever. It's like 3 or 4, 5 nondescript Spartans, all with like different armor sets, which is
AKA multiplayer.
Yeah, to me that reads, hey, we're showing multiplayer. So, and yeah, they haven't yet. They have to. They've talked about multiplayer, but they haven't shown it. I do think they should show campaign stuff though a little bit because especially if they have a better vertical slice ready to go that could like win people back over compared to the one they showed off last year. But maybe multiplayer just kind of is able to do all of that for them.
Is kind of to carry both.
Yeah.
Because really it was the visuals that got chewed, and if multiplayer looks good, then
the campaign stuff they actually showed looked good. It was just the visuals people were mad about.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Halo, the thing I wanted to bring up about this presentation is I think they've said it's 90 minutes, which feels like a very short amount of time for the things they have to talk about, I guess.
It's going to be packed.
Because when you think about Bethesda now being rolled in, I don't know, maybe I can set something up here for you, but we know they're probably going to show Starfield as well. And typically when Bethesda shows new games, like what they did with Fallout 4 or Fallout 76, they'd go very long about these new things that they've got. Like, hi, everybody, we're going to talk to you about for the next 45 minutes about Fallout 4. Here's everything that's in it. So for this whole presentation to only be 90 minutes, really, I don't know, man. I don't know how they're going to squeeze all this in there.
Phil walked in to Todd Howard's office and said, you got to tighten this up. All right, I'll take that. I'll take that T that you set up there. Starfield only gets a trailer. No gameplay.
But what's in the trailer? Just cinematics?
Just space, narration, the visuals. It is not. It is. You do not see a HUD. You do not see gameplay. Like you are not. They are not walking in the environment, like doing things. It isn't. They're not playing the game. It is a trailer. It is a cinematically styled trailer.
Okay.
Maybe in the vein of the most recent trailer I can really think of from Bethesda is Fallout 76 with the country roads take me home. So, and that showed gameplay environments and like people running around, but from what I remember, that trailer was not. Here's what 76 is actually like. So, Starfield trailer. No gameplay.
So I have no Starfield.
Really get the internet upset.
I was just say I have no Starfield predictions, so I'll chime in response to this. I I think that would be a bad choice. No one knows what the game is. You have to show people outside of purely just going space, like why they should be excited about it. So I'm
mostly making this prediction because the internet is so upset at Starfield.
I don't know
possibly
why
being not till 22.
I don't know why they are.
Like, just get over it.
I don't think anyone's actually upset. I think the internet's just kind of. I think the internet's just kind of latching on to every rumor that comes about nowadays, and like some of them have
everyone
said
thinks it's going to be the next great thing, and I feel like they're putting a lot of stock in something they haven't seen.
I don't know if anybody even thinks it's going to be the next great thing. I don't hear anybody hyping Starfield up like, I can't wait, it's going to be the best game ever. I think everybody is just like, like kind of where I'm coming from for this, where it's like, that is one of the most interesting games out there for me right now because Bethesda Game Studios has not done another new IP in the last 15 years or so. So
it's been a very long time.
They have not done anything new since Fallout 3. And that was 2007 or 8, I believe. So it's close to 15 years.
And Fallout wasn't even a new IP per se because it was just they had reinvented what Fallout was.
It is their first wholly new IP in forever. So I think a lot of people are misconstruing that like the hype, kind of what you're saying, because I've seen more people say what you're saying, like people are way too excited about Starfield. I don't know if people are excited about Starfield. I think people just are excited about one of the most prominent...
a new Bethesda IP.
One of the most prominent developers in the industry is finally breaking the mold that they've had for 2 decades at this point and is like, hey, we're going to do something new. And that's just...
I mean, that's kind of the potential I feel with Naughty Dog. You know, really, I want them to branch out. They haven't made a new game since 2007. Same sort of thinking. It's just when you get a studio with that much talent and they've been making Elder Scrolls and Fallout and publishing Doom and Wolfenstein, it's like, let's shake it up a bit. Not that those games are bad or don't even have a future, but like when you say new IP, that's exciting. It's even why Sony is touting these 25 games and over half of them are new IP. That's 13 games at least, you know? So that's really exciting to see. But I just, I'm kind of leaning into the other side of Starfield right now, just kind of for the fun of it, and say it's a trailer with no gameplay. So
we'll see it for sure. They teased it in the image, so it's coming. It's coming. I'm excited. I'm very excited to see it.
It'll be fun.
All right, I'm gonna do this one before you steal it. All right. A new Banjo game will finally be announced, and it's being worked on by a second-party company. So this is really the Sanzaru game situation. I don't think it's being developed in-house, but I think they're finally going to be like, we got to do it. The fans want it. He's in Smash. Somebody make this video game. Who do we call? Sanzaru Games, what are you doing?
They're bought by Facebook making VR games.
But I think they're going to do that. Do I really think they're going to do that? I don't know, probably not. But I have to, it's not a real Xbox prediction list from me for E3 unless I throw this one out there and start praying.
Well, I want you to know Banjo was not on my list.
That's good.
So I would flip out if Banjo came back, but I didn't think it was prediction worthy. So I hope so. All right. Bouncing off of that, in the vein of Banjo and Rare and old Rare games, Perfect Dark from what is it? The Initiative. I think that's the studio name. Gameplay and release window announced. So they show off some gameplay. So no gameplay for Starfield. But Perfect Dark gets gameplay. So Perfect Dark gameplay and a release window.
Didn't they also explicitly say that game is really early on in development in like a blog last year? Like after they announced it?
I don't recall.
I can't remember.
Possibly. It could be. I mean, Phil has been to the studio and seen the game running. That doesn't mean it is in a presentable state. Obviously, that's a part of his job.
Played it. I think he said he's played it.
So like this game is in some fashion out there, whether it is quote unquote E3 ready or not.
I mean, Shuhei Yoshida had said that he was playing Ghost of Tsushima like 4 years before that game came out, I think. So
yeah. So, you know, who knows, but that's honestly one of the biggest Xbox exclusives that I personally am excited about. Because it's Xbox building a brand new studio from the ground up, investing a ton of money and time into that, and it seems to be a single-player narrative-driven game, which is my type of speed.
I'm somebody who missed the boat on Perfect Dark back in the day, so I can't... Everything
Me too.
about
Never
the
played
initiative excites me so much, like the idea of them establishing a new team and getting established AAA people there to run the studio and being the ones working on the game. Like that, they have a really good team in place to make that game. It is just, I kind of wanted them to be like the Naughty Dog of Xbox, where they're like, all right, guys, let's make something new. And instead they're like, hey, what if we did Perfect Dark? And I'm like, okay. And I know Perfect Dark excites a lot of people, but it's just, I'm not one of those.
I'm just so interested in the new IP, or not new IP, I'm sorry, the new studio side of things. Especially after Microsoft went on a shopping spree, it's kind of nice to think of them as also taking their billions of dollars and investing that, just a few millions of that into building a new studio, specifically for Xbox and PC. I think my fingers are really crossed that they are producing great stuff. There's a ton of potential, and I hope it just pans out.
Yeah, you and me both. Okay.
All right, what's your number 3?
Okay. The Xbox ones are the ones I'm least hyped about, as far as my predictions that I came up with. We'll do this. Battlefield 6 shows up. So Battlefield 6 is getting revealed next week, I think on June 9th.
Yes, it is a part of Summer Games Fest.
So Battlefield 6 is going to show up, and they are going to confirm way ahead of time that it's launching day and date on Game Pass.
Oh, interesting.
Or at least on the version of Game Pass where there's like crossover between them and
EA Play.
Maybe
EA
they
Play,
would just
right?
skirt their own audience. That seems kind of bizarre, though. Bottom line, I think it's launching on Game Pass on day one. I think EA really wants to get back in the fold hard with Battlefield. I think they know they screwed things up with 5. And I think they need to... I think they realize that they need to win people back over now more than ever before, because Modern Warfare was such a big deal. Black Ops Cold War, not so much. But Warzone's been huge. Between Modern Warfare and Warzone. Like Call of Duty is like... Somehow they're dominating more than ever before, which is nuts because it's Call of Duty and it's been a juggernaut for the past 10 or 15 years. So I think EA realizes they really, really need to get back in. They need to pull people away from Call of Duty and pull maligned Battlefield 5 players back in, even though that game was not their favorite. So I think a good way to do that is just be like, hey, just try it out if you got Game Pass.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be a really good deal, both for Xbox and EA. So hopefully that comes to fruition. So my next prediction... So I did come with 6, so I'm kind of like toying between my remaining 3 here. I'll do... I know one of them you're not going to predict, so that feels like a safe kind of back pocket one. I'm going to take Bethesda shows off Indiana Jones gameplay. Again, Starfield, nothing, but Indiana Jones gameplay.
Yeah, I forgot they're doing that. So actually, not really. I did remember when I was putting together my list, but it's kind of like one of those things to the side that you're like, not really. I don't know. It's not at the forefront of my mind. That teaser said to me, "Oh, this game's like 2024. Don't get excited." Is how I interpreted that teaser.
Yeah, probably. But I've joked that this will be the first Bethesda game I actually buy, even though this is Machine Games. It's not Bethesda. Well, I guess now technically it is because they own it all now. It doesn't. It's a lot. They paid a lot of money for all this talent. But I am personally very excited for Indiana Jones, not because it could be an Uncharted like game. I actually hope it's not really Uncharted Tomb Raider-y, even though that makes the most sense. I'm excited for Indiana Jones to get a game, just like I'm excited for James Bond to get a game from IO Interactive. So I'm hoping we see Indiana Jones, and I'm hoping it's gameplay.
That would be cool. I would be down for that. Sure. Show me why I should be excited about an Indiana Jones game. That trailer really... I think I kind of need to be like won over by what they're doing with that game first. before I let my excitement get too ahead of me. So, okay.
You're number 4.
One of my predictions is like really terrible, and I wish I would have come up with another one. But I tried to get like
one of mine.
I tried to really hone in on something. I'll do that one last. Let's stick with machine games. Mecha Hitler time, baby. Wolfenstein 3's announced. I think they're just going to show a logo and that's it, though. I don't think we're getting anything else. So I think it'll just be like one of those quick world exclusive, and then they'll play purely CGI trailer. Bam, Wolfenstein 3, BJ Blazkowicz voiceover or something. It's coming.
Mecha Hitler. Yeah,
that's all we know.
They're working on it.
So
remember when they made a co-op Wolfenstein game?
I do. I thought that game was like not that bad, and I like really everybody hated it, and I didn't. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't amazing either.
I played maybe a third of it with my dad. That was interesting. Was okay.
Fine. Some balance problems for sure, though.
All right, I'm going to take my more exciting prediction here for my last Xbox One. I wanted to say Microsoft announces another studio purchase, but that felt too predictable to me. Like,
that's sadly something they do every 2 or 3 months now, somehow.
Yeah, it just felt a little too obvious to the degree that we just spent $7 billion. Maybe we can't buy a studio right now. So that's kind of where I was at. So instead, Microsoft announces an exclusive from a prominent Japanese developer. Whether that is Kojima Productions, like a lot of people are speculating, or just something big. They could do an exclusive from Capcom or Konami or someone else that I'm totally Square.
I heard Platinum Games has got a really good idea for a game like that involves a dragon. So maybe that.
Same sort of vein, you know. Oh man, Scalebound. But they announce an exclusive from a prominent Japanese developer. I think you get that, you put that on Game Pass, that could really possibly help in Japan.
Hey, PSO2 on Xbox has been doing pretty well, somewhat well. About as good as a 10-year-old MMORPG could do. Modern.
So that's my final Xbox prediction. They are leaning into exclusives and getting those on Game Pass. I think they're going to try and get some Japanese games.
That'd be good. I would like them. I'm curious what Kojima's like the big. Well, I think we can say this because we are past the PlayStation and Xbox stuff, and that's the only place he'd appear. I'm wondering if we see that man pretty soon. Seems
he's working on
that
something.
Man also showed with Death Stranding he likes to show you what he's doing so he can create some fancy pants trailers for 4 years and
make an 11-minute trailer, and then a few months later another 6-minute one, and they perfectly overlap in time together.
I think Death Stranding was an instance where that dude created just a walking simulator purely so he could then create trailers surrounding it. Like, the trailers were the things he liked to make more than the game itself. And Death Stranding, good game. Yeah. Not being derivative about it being a walking
game
simulator,
of the year,
but it is kind of literally a walking simulator.
It's so good.
Kojima showing up would be cool. Anyway, Psychonauts 2 release date announced, and I will get very specific. I've circled August 20th on the calendar.
Why August 20th?
Just seemed like a good date to me.
Okay. It's not a shadow drop like everyone seems to think.
No, that's not happening anymore, I don't think. Okay. Release date's a foregone conclusion that we get it 1,000%. Like, that's take that to the bank. Alrighty. But I'll go with August 20th on the date.
Okie dokie, Smokey.
Excited for that game.
Psychonauts 2. I've told you this before. I never played Psychonauts 1. I didn't have an Xbox.
It's on Game Pass.
But,
it's on Game Pass, sir.
It is on Game Pass, but I remember Psychonauts fondly because it was on G4 TV and like this cheat show that they had. And they were talking about I was like, that game seems cool, but I couldn't play it. So I've always wanted to play Psychonauts. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
If you play Psychonauts, then you can play the VR game for PlayStation VR as well, which is like a
VR. What is it? The Rhombus of Ruin.
It's like a 1.5. It happens before the events of Psychonauts 2. It's actually pretty good too. I liked it. So,
yeah, it's another game that I've just always wanted to. I never have. And now I technically have. I think I actually bought it, or it was with Games with Gold at one point. So like I, air quotes, own it outside of Game Pass, I believe. Like I could do it, but I've never sat down with it. I do need to show my Series X some love, so maybe
I think I'm going to replay it before the second one comes out. So maybe we should do it together. I mean, if it's out later this summer, what else have we got to play besides three more Paper Mario games?
Right? And a Mario Golf game and Skyward Sword.
Don't play Skyward Sword. All right.
Game. Skyward Sword's very good. All right. Nintendo, always my favorite every year. No matter how much they hurt me, disappoint me, there's just something about Nintendo that always gets me so excited to predict what they're going to do.
Which often leads to disappointment sometimes.
Disappointment, yes. So how about you kick off Nintendo? Our 5 predictions here. What do you got?
Switch Pro's not appearing at E3. And at least not as a reveal.
Okay, I was gonna ask at the end here. Do you think it's gonna be? Do you think we're gonna see it before?
Yeah,
E3?
I think we could see it tomorrow. The day we're recording this.
I agree.
I think we could see it tomorrow.
Yes, for the record, tomorrow is June 3rd.
There's multiple rumors and leaks about it tomorrow, and then we saw heard that thing yesterday that some retail store has in their system pre-orders scheduled to go live Friday.
4th.
I think, the 4th, which is Friday. I think we see it tomorrow, and then I think it's all software during E3 talking about why the Switch Pro is like a good thing.
I agree.
So
wholly agree. So today, the day we're recording, June 2nd, Nintendo announced their direct date, June 15th, noon Eastern Standard Time. And they said their direct was exclusively software. And to me, that said hardware is being revealed before E3. So that they can control the conversation going into E3. Everyone's hyped on new Switch because Switch is the hotness. And then they're going to go into E3 hopefully with a bunch of really good and cool games that can show off, hey, maybe this is why you want to upgrade or you want to buy the Switch Pro. But if not, all of these games still run on the Switch and are Switch Lite. So I think they're going to do that kind of combo.
Yeah, I mean, if they've got a Switch Pro planned to come out later this year, like people are starting to say, like they're getting to the point where they're going to want to show their software running on that thing as well. Like you don't want to show gameplay that was captured on, like it was the same thing like when like with Horizon Zero Dawn last week, like Forbidden West, during that state of play, they showed off the game running totally on PS5. Like they're not going to show it on base PS4 running or something like that.
That's Digital Foundry's job.
Like it's getting to the point where if Nintendo has a Switch Pro or a Super Switch, we need to start calling it the Super Switch. I've been getting on people lately to stop using Switch Pro terminology because that's garbage terminology. I just hate it. I was never a fan of.
I don't disagree with you.
PS4 Pro,
I mean,
bad name. Let's go Super Switch, folks. Let's get Super Switch out there into the ether.
I mean, the current standing is it's called New Nintendo Switch Pro.
That was a debunked listing, I'm pretty sure, on Amazon. But yes. Or they scrubbed it or something. It was like...
I mean, a Super Switch would be a great callback to the Super
But
Nintendo.
It almost makes it sound like a next-gen console, I think, is why they wouldn't. Because Super was the designation when they made a generational jump.
Next.
So they probably won't call it Super Switch, but...
It'll probably be New Nintendo Switch
Probably.
Pro.
Pro, they've never used the word Pro. PlayStation is the only company, right?
Pro on the console side, yes. They've Switch Pro controller.
No, well, yeah. That one could argue that that's almost a little bit confusing then, if they did call it Switch Pro.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, oh, is this the Pro controller? Is this the controller that comes with the Switch Pro? No, they're just...
Or does it only work with the Switch Pro?
I can't see them calling it Switch Pro. I don't know why that became the name that stuck, but
because everything is Pro or Plus or Premium or whatever. So, all right, I'm gonna take low hanging fruit up front because I'm worried you might snatch it. Breath of the Wild sequel is shown off. That's it.
All right.
Oh well, I'll spice it up a bit more. No date.
Okay, that's
No date.
That's literally
no
my
date
exact
with it.
prediction. I didn't come with a 6, so sorry. I'll just throw that out there now. Here's my next one.
Well,
Breath of the Wild 2 will be
I'm
shown.
6.
There's going to be no release window given at all. They're not going to say a date.
I like how we're thinking the same, though. I do genuinely like that we're thinking the same way with this game.
they're going to be like, hey, here it is. We told you we'd finally show more of it. Here it is. I hope you're just happy seeing a little bit of it. There it is. I think the things they will show, I think they'll give us a name too, because I don't think it's going to be Breath of the Wild 2. I think it's going to be
It will have
Legends.
a, it will have a
a different
subtitle.
And I think
That's why I always call it Breath of the Wild sequel instead of Breath of the Wild 2.
if you look at
that's not
SEO
the name
and
of it.
Google Trends, Breath
I'm not
of
an
the Wild
SEO boy.
2,
My job does not depend on this.
yeah, I think we see it's like that's. Sorry, I didn't come with another one to swap out for that, but
You're
but no,
fine.
that's
I've got a
that's
6.
that's my exact prediction. Is they'll show it, they'll finally talk about it, they'll be like, hey, here it is.
We were
Thanks.
bound to have.
See you some other
crossover
time.
It'll be great. I would love it though for the kicks and giggles. If they did the same thing they did with the last direct, where Anuma shows up, goes, "I know you want to see more of Breath of the Wild."
Give
sequel.
people a second kick to the
We
balls.
will show you more at a later date. Here is Skyward
Isn't that
Sword.
how they finally? Isn't that what they did with original Breath of the Wild? They did the gameplay reveal at Game Awards. Remember that? And they're like, "Here it is. We're gonna finally show
They
it
did.
to you."
It was-
and it's running on a small TV in front of us.
It was an off-screen demo with Miyamoto and
Anuma,
Anuma.
yeah. I think they'll do something similar to where they'll show off gameplay, but they're not gonna like commit to anything else. They'll show off gameplay and they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, and it's gonna run great on Super Switch, so make sure you get it." I think that'd be about it.
I'm excited for that.
I guess technically,
I'm just looking at
back
my
to
list.
you, since that was mine.
Yeah, no, back to me. It's totally fine. I call this a Logan Moore style prediction. Doug Bowser
Okay.
and Bowser the Koopa King appear on screen together. Bowser and Bowser will be united on
Well,
screen
that's already
at the same
happened,
time.
so they're coming back together, is what you're saying.
Yes, like they're going to keep leaning into this. It's just too easy not to do it. Why Bowser's there, I have no idea what he's promoting, but Bowser and Bowser are going to be together.
Okay. I hope they keep doing it. They should keep playing that bit up. Do it. Lean into it more.
Yeah, I think that's just super fun.
Okay, that is very much a Logan
All right.
Moore style prediction, predicting something about the stream itself rather than what is announced. Well, I really only got 2 more left since one of mine is actually already taken because you even
No, you're
wrote
fine.
it down on your end. I'll do mine here. We'll go a 3-parter.
Oh my god.
Part 1, new Smash reveal, but they're going to reveal 2
Okay.
Smash characters.
So
They're gonna
both
reveal
characters.
both
part
characters.
one, okay.
Part 1. Part 2, one is Waluigi. Finally. Part 3, the other is Master Chief. It's gonna happen. I'm speaking it into existence. I spoke Banjo into existence. I will now speak John Spartan appearing in Smash into existence.
Oh my gosh. You had me up until Chief.
There we go. I think it's finally gonna happen.
Because the last fighter has to be
I think
Goku,
if
so.
I was going to make a more, not that I don't think any of those things could happen, but I think they will also confirm part 4, which I didn't write down. I think they're going to confirm Fighters Pass 3 is coming as well. Because
Okay.
you and I talked about that the other day, and I just don't think it makes any sense for them to necessarily stop charging people $25 to $30 for these new character packs, because that's like half the cost of the game. And so they can continue doing this, and I know the memes are out there with even Sakurai being like, "Oh, I'll never get to stop working." Like, it's surely got to be less development struggle for him to just work on creating characters and maps and stages, compared to creating a whole another video game.
Video game. And like, how do you go up from Ultimate?
Yeah.
Like, the next Smash game would just be everyone again.
And the fact that they're going to bring out Super Switch at some point, like that game's just going to keep living on in perpetuity.
It'll be the new Mario Kart
Yeah.
8.
There's no reason for
essentially.
them.
Like, Ultimate will just live
there's
forever.
no need for them to continue doing anything but supporting that game well into the future, especially because the Switch life cycle doesn't seem like something that's going to be ending anytime soon. So just keep supporting Smash in perpetuity with new DLC.
Yeah, I like that idea. I had 0 Smash predictions.
It's kind of a gimme. I mean, I feel like that's the one thing we can really check that will be there 1,000% certain.
Yeah.
So
it's probably pretty safe. Speaking of Mario Kart 9 is announced. Holiday 2021.
No way, that game 8 still sells too well. It doesn't make any sense.
My logic. 8 sells well for 2 reasons. 3 reasons. It's the only real Mario Kart game on Switch. It is bundled with practically every Switch.
Some of them, yeah.
It's a very popular bundle. I forget the third reason.
You think people will double dip?
Prominent.
I'm going to guess that's your reason.
That was it. People will double dip, and if it's holiday 2021, so the Switch, Super Switch, trying to will it into existence for you, Super Switch is rumored for like a September-ish release. If you announce Mario Kart 9 holiday, and let's say they throw it in, it's a bundle with the Super Switch or the Switch Lite. Like they incentivize you to get, people will double dip. Mario Kart 8 sells well, but by the time this holiday, there will be 100 million Switches out there. You can't, Mario Kart 8 is reaching its plateau at some point. It's closer.
Mario Kart 8 to me, though, is like Nintendo's Grand Theft Auto, is why I don't think they're going to do it. You don't see Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out anytime soon. And instead,
again, they're releasing. First of all, they're releasing GTA.
That's exactly
5
my point.
Again,
and I think that Mario Kart 8 is Nintendo's Grand Theft Auto. They just see no reason to do it. So,
I just think, I personally think they could get Mario Kart Wii was one of the best-selling games of all time, not too long ago, and that's because the Wii was everywhere, and the Switch is everywhere. And I get Mario Kart 8 is still selling well, but I think you could get everyone to double dip. The attach rate on Switch in general is incredibly high. There's just super solid connection there with the audience, and a ton of casual gamers are buying the Switch, and I think they would buy another Mario Kart game. And it's not like Mario Kart 8 goes away. Say, then retailers may be selling Mario Kart 8 cheaper. Nintendo won't, but and then people are still buying Mario Kart 8 or they buy Mario Kart 9.
Yeah, I mean, people would double dip. Most people, I don't know about most,
and
but
also,
they would sell a lot of copies of it.
I would double dip. Yeah. And I mean, not that this is indicative of it's been so long, you have to make a new game. They can sell Mario Kart 8 till the day I die. But Mario Kart 8 came out in 2014.
Yeah, it's a pretty old game.
It's been a long time since a new Mario Kart game, not counting Tour on phones and then Home Circuit Live, their AR game for Switch, which is kind of why it was the only real Mario Kart game on Switch. They're still playing around with it, but give us a new Mario Kart. I just think it would sell incredibly well, and it would be a good, quick surprise and be a great holiday game. It would dominate Christmas.
Yeah. All I have...
Because Switches are out there. Switches are going to be hot this Christmas. And whether that's a Super Switch, a Lite, or a regular Switch, every Switch under a Christmas tree is going to get a Mario Kart game. And if there's a new one out, it's going to be Mario Kart 9.
All I will say about Mario Kart 9 is that just bring back the soundtrack team from 8, and I'll be happy. Fine. You can do anything.
Give me that big blue saxophone.
You can do literally anything else you want with that game. Just please bring back that soundtrack team and do something in that style again. I don't know how you make that super fresh because they, did re-recording.
They already did.
Well, they did re-recordings for all the old ones too in that style. So I guess doing that same style again when you're going to have your Rainbow Roads showing up again. I don't know how you redo those in a new
Mario Kart
way.
Ultimate. It's everyone is here.
Sure. Honestly, something like that could work.
Every track is here. What if this is pipe dreaming now? But What if they did what the Master Chief Collection did, where you could push a button and it changes the graphics to the original graphics of each game?
Considering how good 8 looks, I don't think I need to shift back to the old ones, if I'm being honest. 8 looks so good.
No,
8's
but
one of the best
like
looking games
64.
ever.
I know, but people have nostalgia for 64 and DS and all that stuff. I think it could be fun. That's just a crazy pipe dream feature, but I think there are more pros for a new Mario Kart game than just letting 8 keep going and eventually hit a plateau.
Sure.
Like 100 million more copies of Mario Kart is better than another 15 million or 25.
I don't know if it sold 100 million, but they've sold like what, 40
well,
or something?
I'm thinking
30 or 40, I think, million.
Sorry,
I get what you're saying.
I'm
the
just
potential
Switch.
potential consumers.
There's more potential
to buy. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you
I'll
got?
steal something from you, which I'm sure is bound to show up.
Oh no, I should have said this next.
Should have.
No. Don't do it.
A new Metroid game is announced.
I'll just
go that straightforward. A new Metroid game is announced, and part 2, Nintendo will comment on the development of Metroid Prime 4, but they'll do nothing else related to it. They'll just be like, "Yeah, it's still a thing. Don't worry, it's coming sometime." Ignore that whole situation.
All right. Well, hand in hand, similar-ish in an alternate universe to your Breath of the Wild pick. My Metroid theme prediction: new Metroid games do not make an appearance in at the Direct.
You're making this prediction to protect yourself this time around. I see.
What's a Metroid? They don't know. Why can't Metroid crawl?
We heard this is a 30th
Nintendo
anniversary
employee.
of some franchise we have? I never heard of that one. Is this year the 30th or 35th?
35th. It's the same as Zelda.
Yeah.
So it's 35 with Zelda, and then Donkey Kong, I believe, is 40.
Jeez. Getting up there.
Yeah, that's old, ain't it? So I don't think Metroid shows up. I would love it, but
I think they got it. I think they've got to comment on...
I'm jaded at this point.
I think they have to say
I said no,
something about it. Same way they did a couple months ago with Zelda, where they were like, "Hey, you might probably want to hear about Breath of the Wild 2, don't you? Too bad, suckers!" They got to do something.
But Breath of the Wild 2, we've already seen more of than we've seen of Metroid.
I don't know. It was a pretty fancy PNG we saw 7 years ago or whenever that was. Was that 4 years ago now? Oh my goodness, it was 4 years ago.
I want to say though, my prediction specifically says new Metroid games.
So you're saying if they remake Metroid 2 for the 50th time, then it doesn't count?
I was gonna say if they announce the Prime trilogy for Switch,
okay.
That would.
Rumors are that there's like another 2D one, so that's like the hot.
I would love that. I would love. You know me, I would love it. But I'm jaded at this point. I don't believe in Metroid anymore. I would love for your prediction to be right. I really, 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 really want it.
I don't know what else they have coming out this year. I feel like they have to acknowledge the 35th anniversary of Metroid in some way, because they haven't yet. I feel like a good way to do that would be to package it all in one big thing where they're like, "Oh, as you may know, this is the 30th anniversary of not just Zelda, but also Metroid this year. And to that end," I just gestured to the camera. To that end, here's a new game. Also, Metroid Prime 4, or where you want it, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think that makes... But you're right, it makes too much sense on paper to where that won't happen. So...
It's like, what? Acknowledge our franchise's anniversary? Who? What?
I do think if they've got anything else, like, can you think of anything else? This is a whole deeper discussion, though. But like, what do they have this fall, if not something like that coming out of left field?
So their direct announcement today was all software and most of it coming out in 2021. Yeah. So I just think we don't know. They kind of not stealth. They did, honestly, the Nintendo thing lately, the Bethesda thing as well. They just announced the Mario Super Golf Tour, I forget what it's called, a few months ago, and it's coming out.
That's been kind of their MO recently. They did the same thing with Link's Awakening a few years ago. Paper Mario was another good one, yeah. Like that. This is definitely their thing. So they've got some stuff coming this fall. I guess I'm just saying, like, what is it?
Mario Kart 9.
We'll see. All right, is it my last one or is it yours? Oh, my last one's terrible. Well, it's not terrible. It's just No.
No, we'll count the Metroids kind of together like we did with Breath of the Wild. So I'll pull out my sixth one, which is the GameCube makes an appearance. An appearance. This is not a virtual console. This is not specific. Just the GameCube is mentioned or appears in some capacity. Why? Because it's the 20th anniversary of the GameCube.
They got too many anniversaries going. They can't acknowledge all of them.
It's insane. But you know what? I love my little cube. I have 2 of them. I would love more. I say it shows up in some capacity. Remember when they did the Switch announcement? Like they revealed the Switch and they're like, look at how all of our consoles legacies like belt to the Switch. It's like the NES had 2 controllers and the blah 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 blah. And the only thing they pulled from the GameCube was the fact it had a handle, making it portable.
Revolutionary.
I think they'll acknowledge the GameCube in some way. I think that'd be fun.
Okay.
All right. Your last one, which you say, quote unquote, is terrible.
Well, it's not terrible. It's just something you and I talked about off camera before this. And I have said very boisterously and loudly, like 100%, 100,000%, it's Bayonetta 3 time, folks. Like, we will see that game. There's no doubt in my mind that this is the time. It just feels right. This is the time. This is the time. Platinum's been saying for like 18 months now, like, yeah, you guys, like, we're going to show you some Bayonetta 3 stuff soon. They've been saying this since January of last year. And then COVID kind of like ruined everything. It just, based on when that game was shown, how long it has been since we've seen everything, the fact that Platinum keeps telling people like, yeah, don't worry. Like, we know you want to see it. We're going to show it soon. Don't worry. It's coming. Just be patient. Like, I just think it has to show up. Like, they've been very clear that it's still in development, that it's still coming. Platinum has really nothing else going on their plate right. Actually, that's not true. They have a lot going on. But it's like the biggest thing they're working on right now is this game. And I think this just feels right. I feel it. It's a gut feeling thing that we see this game actually show up. So Bayonetta 3. People will finally not scream after the direct, well, where's Bayonetta 3? Like they do at the end of every other one. It's always the 3 horsemen of Nintendo Directs are it's slowly become the 4 horsemen. It's Metroid Prime 4, Breath of the Wild 2, Bayonetta 3, and Silk Songs coming up pretty often nowadays too. But those are always the 4 that everybody's like, where is it, Nintendo? And then Mother 3, but we can't really count that because that's like a borderline meme.
Speaking of Mother 3, I love the idea that Reggie like has an official
English card of it.
Yeah. I love the idea that Reggie has one of those.
So yeah.
My final prediction was rumored a few weeks ago.
Oh, I know what this is. Yeah.
And I bought it and I'm a whole hog, just ready to, I want
this too.
So bad. I believe it. This is where Nintendo rumors get me. They come out with this stuff and I buy in and then it's not going to be a thing and I'm going to be crushed.
It's Star Fox Racing all over again.
It kind of is in a weird way, except sounds way better than just Star Fox Racing. 3D Donkey Kong returns. There was a rumor that the Odyssey team, aka Nintendo's like primo Mario team, is making a 3D Donkey Kong game. And that sounds absolutely perfect.
This is one of those things that I like want to believe, but the only 3D Donkey Kong
it's too good to be true.
The only 3D Donkey Kong we've had has just been 64, right? Or am I forgetting something?
Yeah.
And that was rare.
It's just 64. That was rare.
So it would be like a totally whole new venture for them to make a 3D Donkey Kong platformer when they've really never done that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the GameCube only had Jungle Beat and the Congo, like the bongo rhythm games. So there was no 3D there. The Wii had Jungle Beat again, no game, and then the Wii U returns and stuff, and then Wii U is Tropical Freeze and Switch is Tropical Freeze. So I just love this rumor so much. I've bought in. I want it. Let's make it happen. I'm willing this one into existence. Donkey Kong in 3D returning.
Yeah, this is the one I want to believe. because Odyssey is like one of my favorite games of the past 5 years, and the idea of a new Donkey Kong game sounds really, really cool. They could do some awesome stuff with Donkey Kong as the central platformer character. But I don't want to get too excited. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, I'm all in. So this means I'm going to get my heart broken.
Yeah, like we always do with Banjo and all kinds of other things.
Well, that wraps it up. E3 sounds like it's going to be kind of stretched out over the month of June, unless Sony announces something sooner here. But currently, the latest event is Tuesday the 15th for Nintendo's Direct. I'm excited. I'm so pumped. It feels like a proper E3 after last year going on forever. I'm stoked to just have a more tightly focused week celebrating video games and new projects and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. There's still so many questions that I have about everything that's going on. Like, is Jeff Keighley's summer please watch my sponsored Doritos stream, like, is that actually going to have good things worth tuning in for? How is E3 there? It's weird how many questions I have though. Like, how is E3 actually working? Like, E3, I know to a lot of people at home has always just been like, oh, I just watch the conferences and that's it. But like, I'm on the media side of this.
As a business,
I don't understand how any of this works. Like, I signed up for press as E3 press the other day, and like, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so many questions. PlayStation still hasn't announced their thing, obviously, like we talked about. I don't even know if they will. Maybe they'll go in July instead. Early July seems pretty empty. Late July is EA's thing, but EA's also doing Battlefield soon, so
it's interesting, but it does feel more tight, at least close together than it definitely was last year. So it is it's going to be an exciting time, I hope, and really looking forward to E3 as always, and part of that is the predictions. So thank you for doing this with me. It's, we've done this before in the past, so it's not new to us, but it is a time-honored tradition for the two of us.
It's just new on this podcast feed. So.
It is. So thank you so much for joining me, Logan. I think that'll wrap it up. We've been going pretty long here. Every week I'm like, there's no way we can go longer than the last one, and then somehow I do. So thank you so much. Why don't you plug away, my friend? Tell the people where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, I mean, these days you can find me over on Twitter at moreman12. That's where I've always been. If you've heard me on Max's shows before, still there. Just I'm not verified now. They turned me down on that one. I'm actually really glad they did, because as soon as I kind of applied for that, I was like, I kind of hope I don't get this. I feel like it. I don't know. So I'm still unverified over there. Have fun following me. Where else? Oh, comicbook.com. You can follow me over there. You can follow all of our E3 coverage. Again, I don't know what to expect on that front, because I'm still so confused with how this is all going down in some senses. But yeah, I will be there. You can follow that. And then I guess I'll be reviewing Ratchet and Clank, the new one, whenever that comes out, whenever this publishes.
Well, the game comes out June 11th.
Yeah, so I'll be our
Friday.
reviewer on that one. So look forward to that, I guess.
Okay, cool. And then for myself, you can find my writing over at maxfrequency.net. We've got quite a few shows now. This show, the Max Frequency Podcast, Logan and I's new seasonal podcast, Chapter Select, so go check that out. Season 1 has just started with Paper Mario. The second episode is launching here on June 16th, middle of June, and that is going to focus on Paper Mario, the Origami King. So look forward to that. If you'd like to learn about the history of Naughty Dog during the PS4 era, you can check out Chasing the Stick. You can read that history over at maxfrequency.net or listen to it as an audiobook podcast. Just search Chapter Select wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at maxroberts143. I'm very active over there, and you'll definitely see some E3 tweets while that's going on over the next couple of weeks. I think that's it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Adios.